top money here.
Really?
Hey, guys, welcome to start again.
Okey doke. When you guys are still dealing with my guys.
Okay, we're on red. Hi, I'm Brian Sullivan, the Chair of the Harwich Board of Appeals. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Welcome to the meeting of the Harwich Board of Appeals on this date, May 7th. The purpose of this meeting is to hear and decide applications before the Board of Appeals which have been brought pursuant to the bylaw of the town of Massachusetts, town of Harwich, and the Massachusetts Zoning Enabling Act. Must have read that, 500 times. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting, which we are. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. During this meeting, the chair will recognize promptly a member of the board, the secretary, and attorneys presenting the case to inform the chair if a protocol is not being followed. While in open session, those wishing to present comments or ask questions regarding the case are requested to fill out information form on the podium. I'd like to have each member introduce themselves, and as well as, Paul, starting with you, if you could.
Paul Haverty, MHP consultant.
Amy Questle, Town Council.
Chris Murphy. Alexander Donahue.
Brian Sullivan.
Kenneth Dixon.
John August.
Christine Flynn, Town Planner.
Okay. Didn't want to disappoint anybody, so I do have my opening narrative.
It's only one page instead of three tonight.
I know they're collector's items. All right, so good evening. Tonight's hearing will start with a review of the proposed site plan updates, as well as address follow-up on other aspects of development's plans, as discussed during our last hearing on April 23rd. I anticipate most of this evening will focus on waivers requested by the applicant, which were amended in a submittal on May 4th. During this process, the board will also review potential conditions, some of which are aligned with waiver requests. Community input is critical in shaping conditions, as is often they are the primary source of local knowledge. My goal for this board, the public, and the applicant to view both waivers and conditions as a cooperative partnership. In the process, we might not initially all agree, but I'm confident we will get there. Seen this way, the conditions are not punitive. They are the documented outcome of a negotiated process that aligns development feasibility with community standards. Discussion of potential conditions are made to improve understanding of goals and, at times, to challenge the applicant to reimagine the development and operational plans to address concerns. They are not meant to be roadblocks or reflect a hard no. Simply put, conditions are goals to improve this future Harwich community. One example of the cooperative partnership is progress made to date on parking. The original site plan only offered 74 total spots and did not provide any community center parking. The latest site plan revision now includes parking for the community center and an increase to 83 total spaces. Further, the applicant and the Affordable Trust are pursuing an opportunity for an additional 20 parking spaces on the adjacent north property to serve as overflow parking. This development now has 103 spaces available, which meets the standards under Harwich bylaws. During the public comment period, I hope to hear from residents expressing further opinions and recommendations as well. Area neighbors and community stakeholders are a key source of local knowledge. Public comment strengthens this process. As all parties work together with respectful dialogue, informed and expert testimony, these hearings will result in mutual agreeable changes to be outlined in waivers and conditions to ensure that a wonderful new Harwich neighborhood is built. I have the clerk read the case, please.
Case number 2026-01. Penrose LLC, agent and applicant, Harwich Affordable Housing Trust, owner of the Milk Street, 16th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, has made an application for a comprehensive permit pursuant to the Mass General Law 40B, Section 20 and 23. And 760 CMR 56-00 to construct 14 townhome-style residential structures of 3 to 8 units each, 60 units in the total of family rental housing. The case has been continued from April 23 of 2026.
Okay, as a, for the board members, as we have the most recent site plan, I think you all have a copy of it, okay? And just so, because part of tonight's discussion on conditions and other things involving parking and availability, well, I think it's important to know the number of apartments that are in each building. And so I did receive that information. So if we start with Building 1, you know, that has 8 apartments. So you might make a note of this. Building 2 has 3. Building 3 has 3. Building 4 has 4. Building 5 has 3. Building 6 has 4. Building 7 has 3. Building 8 has 4. Building 9 has 3. I'm actually kind of surprised that some of these buildings are a lot bigger than we may discuss. That must be, some of the buildings are just single, one-bedroom units. Okay, that's why they're, okay. I came up with that idea all by myself, huh? All right, so, Building 10 has 3. Building 11 has 8. Building 12 has 3. Building 13 has 3. And Building 14 has 8. Okay, so, that's all the information that you need at this point. And I think I think at some point that may be helpful for you, okay? So, I think I'm gonna open up the floor to Penrose and consultants to jump in and the next piece on the agenda. And, you know, for the crowd that's here tonight, on the table, there is the agenda, as well as some point, when we get into waivers and conditions, there's a handout on waivers and conditions there as well, okay? That we'll be discussing, all right, as well as some other things. So, and turn the floor over, and you might introduce yourselves and those assisting you on your presentation.
Certainly. For the record, Marion Rose from Singer & Singer and Dennisport here on behalf of Penrose. With me is Brian Kirikoff, who's the developer on the site. As we go along, we'll introduce the rest of the team as they're needed. But the full team is here, and we're ready to answer questions that you may have.
And before you start, Christine, I don't know who's online, it might be from VHB that we need to unmute them.
Okay, it's Nate Coretta, who is works for VHB and has a brief update on the civil and site
Okay,
plans,
so
as
Na-
well
so-
as...
So Nate's unmuted now, and anybody else that needs to be unmuted? That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Welcome aboard, Nate. Okay.
Hello.
Go right ahead.
Great, thanks. Again, Ryan Kirikoff with Penrose. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, well, here I was ready to share the exciting news of all the progress on the parking program and other things, but you're all over it, which is great to hear. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail. I'll ask the team to come up here in a moment and speak to some of the details, but as you noted, the team has worked together to carve out an additional 8 spaces for vehicle parking within the site itself. The 6 of those are clustered around the clubhouse building, a mix of new head-in parking spaces, as well as parallel parking spaces. And then there's an additional 2 beyond those 6 that were created around the periphery of the site by removing a parking island and combining 1 or 2 others. So folks from the team can discuss those in more detail. So again, net 8 new spaces that we have added in direct response to the comments received from this board. As mentioned, those come at the expense of some landscaped open space, 4 of the planned street trees, but really critically, we've been able to avoid adding parking around the central green space, which was something that we had spoken about last
Yes.
time, and I think folks had generally agreed that that was a worthy goal, and this has achieved that, so.
You shot me down on that one.
I wouldn't say it like that, but I appreciate folks responding to that and
But
hearing.
I hold no resentment.
Thank you. Other changes I'll just highlight include the number of the ADA or handicap parking spaces, now up from the required 4 to 6. 4 of those are really directly accessible to the clubhouse, including 2 of the new head-in parking spaces right in front of the front door. And then, as you noted, regarding the overflow parking, the Affordable Housing Trust voted just this afternoon their support and offering for the development to build 20 overflow parking spaces on its parcel to the north of the site, which Penrose will pay to Light to provide access via sidewalk to it, maintain it, all of those things. So, as you noted, the 20 spaces there brings the total parking program to 103. That's more than the 102 in the underlying zoning, 1.72 spaces per unit in total. And it's a product of great teamwork, I think, from the design team and from our friends at the Affordable Housing Trust that we were able to get to that. So
Where is that parking in the north?
we'll show an image, I think,
Okay.
if we're able to.
That's fine, if you're gonna show it, I can wait.
Yeah, we will. But it's directly off the driveway, the north-south driveway.
Okay, north of Bassett's Lane.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Okay, thank you very much. We don't need to show the agenda. This is the site plan you all have in front of you, so I won't belabor the point. Here, maybe I'll hand over, Mark, do you want to speak to this? Just the mechanics of the net new parking spaces added here. Do you want this?
By the way, folks from Penrose, so forth, apparently there's still plenty of seats available in the front. Not,
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Mark Warfel. I'm a landscape architect with Crowley Cottrell Landscape Architecture. So this diagram here shows the changes to the parking. Highlighted in the light blue are areas where we've been able to either combine an island or remove an island to pick up a couple parking spots. We've added, shown in red here, 2 parallel spots north and south of the clubhouse. And I think what's been referenced a few times in purple, we've taken those 3 parallel spots, turned them perpendicular to the driveway, and we're able to add an additional 2 accessible spots there. So 6 total accessible parking spots, 8 additional. There's now 83 on site.
In order to widen that lane, to put the parallel to, front in on the right side, did you have to remove land from the center island? To keep the width of the street?
The street,
Drive
the
portion?
driveway has maintained the consistent width. So the only changes that have been done for the head-in parking spaces here is reconfiguring the sidewalk and street trees and things associated on that side.
So Mark, if I may, is it fair to say that just the landscaped open space along that edge has been shrunk a little bit to accommodate those parking
So the
spaces?
parking moved in?
It ate up a portion of the green
Yes.
space.
Yeah, okay. I guess that was my question, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Zach, you want to speak to?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Zach Richards. I'm a senior project manager and engineer of record with Bowler on the project. At the last hearing, we heard some feedback again and concerns with the drive out width being reduced to 22 feet and some larger vehicles. So we did take another look at the site plan and how we could reduce some of those concerns. Again, 18 by 9 foot spaces is very standard across the state. I realize it's a little bit smaller than the regulations here, but accommodates most vehicles and is generally acceptable. I think we stand behind this design as pretty common practice and good standard practice. And obviously, I won't speak for the peer review consultant, but I believe they didn't have any major concerns with it, nor did the fire department. Again, we did take another look at this, and specifically with some of those turning movements where they're, I guess the fire truck is most severely constrained. We thought it made a lot of sense to delineate some of the parking spaces in those vicinities as compact-only spaces. Typically, a compact space would be striped at 8-foot width by 16-foot length. That still does accommodate a large majority of vehicles. Just some examples of compact vehicles: the Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic, Honda CR-V, those are all 15-foot length. Toyota 4Runner, Nissan Altima, those are 16-foot in length, so those would all be considered compact. And what we would do, it's a little hard to make out on this plan, but you can see we've called out at least one. It's all of the parking spaces in the vicinity of those tighter turns. We would stripe those as compact only. So that would help ensure that we don't have any larger vehicles in those locations, and it really should buy you another couple feet of aisle width, essentially. So again, when it comes to viewing, public health and welfare here, we feel that width is appropriate, and it's actually a great traffic calming measure, like a natural traffic calming measure. And I do feel strongly that it results in a better development with some improved green space. Jumping to, I think, some concerns relative to 3-point turn required for the garbage truck. Turning exhibit, we did revise this, and I think this reflects how operations we expect to occur, would be the garbage truck turning into the site, heading back, going to that first dumpster, backing up, taking a left turn, continuing to circulate through the site, and then picking up at the second dumpster located on the left side of the page, backing up and exiting the site. So we don't think there's any 3-point turns required for those natural operations, and I think folks would agree that's how we expect, that's how operations will occur. Jumping to this slide, another point of concern, and I think discussion has been the future sewer extension, which again, based on discussions, we understand is expected to occur in 2050. That said, we did take a harder look at how we could accommodate a future gravity sewer at such a time that it may exist to serve the site. We've drawn a couple pipe lengths here that would be added that would really allow all of the sewer to get into that main drive aisle coming into the site, and then gravity down to Queen Anne Road. And you can see it's, a couple additional pipes and structures, and we understand how that could occur. We've also been proactive in reaching out to GHD.
Good. Okay, thank you.
And we've already shared this with them. Initial feedback was good. We've reached out, and I think we're working on a meeting next week to kind of dig in a little bit further, make sure we're thinking of all the considerations here. And this also does consider extending the sewer just a little bit further to the north, close to the property line, so that we could easily pick up the sewer effluent from a future development on the northern parcel as well. And I know the applicant's open to, a sewer easement that would allow that to happen at some point.
A question?
Yes.
Is any of this part of the construction, or this is just conceptually so we know it can be done?
At this point, we've drawn it so that, we could understand and know how it could be done.
But there'd be no intention of doing it at the time of construction for this development, is that correct?
Correct, not at this time.
Okay, I want to make sure it's clear. Thank you.
Just real quick, GHD advised only the location where it will go, not doing the construction because of grading and for the pipe grading, because in 2050, they want to firm up their plans where the pipe's going to be in the street before we establish piping to grade down to that.
Thank you.
So,
I have a question. Regarding trucks, pickup trucks, seem to be every third vehicle on the road is a pickup truck. Are these spaces going to be able to accommodate the size of some of these pickup trucks that are now on the road?
Yeah, I did look, and Toyota Tacoma is, 17 and a half feet. I know it was discussed the F-150 is slightly larger than 18 feet. It's not uncommon that you see those these days, and again, typical across Massachusetts sizing is 9 by 18, and they make it work. Like, yes, you might get a little bit of a bump out there, but again, easily navigated. I think, our goal is to locate those by striping compact, more in the straight drive aisles where they can easily be accommodated.
Out of curiosity on that, and it's a good question from Al, if you have a resident that, he's in the trades, and he has a club truck cab, plus a full bed, will there be perhaps management discussion of you gotta park an alternate lot for your truck? I mean, just throwing that scenario out. That's your call at the time. I'm just
Yeah.
making that suggestion. I'm not making a condition on that. but-
No, understood. No, I think that would definitely fit under the category of the management company being there to solve problems, and
Right.
they would work to solve that problem.
My truck's almost, is 20 feet. And I don't have an 8-foot bed, 8-foot.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and then you get
22
into
feet.
22 feet, and you got a 6-foot bed, and it's 20 feet.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, sorry I interrupted.
No,
Train of
not
thought.
at all. Appreciate the questions. So again, I think, we're going to be meeting with GHD next week to further discuss, and we'll continue to work with them as the design progresses. I'll point out just that in evaluating this, most of those pipes would be located in green space as well, which allows it to easily, more easily be constructed in the future
Excellent,
without
okay.
redoing work, right, and
Well,
disturbing it.
it's on a green space, but obviously your septic systems are, big field is in front of in front of the
Yeah.
community center. Then it's also, obviously down the bottom. So you must have an easement situation to be able to get the piping from that field over to the green area. I mean, that's at some point.
Yeah, again, that's that line just above the community building is basically bringing it
Okay,
within
I
a green
see.
strip
Thank you.
over to the right there.
Thank you.
With that, I am going to pass it over to Jeff Dirk with Van Ast to discuss the transportation.
Oh, wait a minute, real quick.
Sure.
On the plan, did you put in what besides the sewer, your other utility lines coming into the property and where that's gonna be located? Power and so forth coming in?
Yes, yeah, all that's reflected on the plans.
Okay, I just didn't see where it was coming in, but you're burying it, of course.
Yes, of course, yeah, all underground.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Jeffrey Dirk with Vanessa Associates, the transportation consultants on the project. I have a few slides. I'm going to keep the momentum moving right along. I know Mike Santos is not online, but he did submit a letter, and we very much appreciate his prompt review of our response to comments. And I would just indicate that there's nothing outstanding as it relates to any technical analysis. So I'm just going to give a high-level overview of what we provided in the response to comments, which were also responsive to some of the questions from the board, which goes back to February. So it's a little bit dated in terms of our this additional information. So just to kind of refresh what we have provided. So in response to the peer review, we submitted a letter on April 16th, and these are the specific items that we were asked to address. So an evaluation of an additional year's worth of crash data. I know very sensitive topic as it relates to kind of recent events in the area, but we did look at additional crash data to 2022. It didn't change anything with respect to our overall analysis, but we submitted the traffic study. The data that was available through Mass DOT was only through 2021. They have since published another year's worth of crash data, which has been reconciled, and so they asked for us to update the analysis, so we did do that, and again, it didn't change any findings. On the Main Street, Pleasant Lake Avenue intersection was identified as a high crash location. I'm going to show you a motor vehicle collision diagram in a minute, and we can talk about that. They had asked that be prepared. Really, that allows us to identify where are the crashes happening in the intersection, rather than just telling you there's 24 crashes over a certain time period. What's important is what's going on at the intersection. So the collision diagram allows us to look at what's happening in a little bit more detail, and I'll show you that diagram in a minute. The road safety audit at Pleasant Lake at Queen Anne Road has been published, and so what they had asked us to do is identify the short-term, low-cost improvements. Again, the reason for that is really as we get to the appropriate time for looking at conditions, those are items to be listed potentially as things that could be constructed at the intersection. And so we flushed out those items and identified them specifically. So again, when we get to the appropriate time, you can look at the list of items that came from the road safety audit. At the intersection of Queen Anne and Pleasant Lake, the board is very well aware we have two projects that are looking at improvements at that intersection. So there's a fair share costing, which will result in some improvements of the town. But what was important to the peer reviewer is the signal retiming. And so we have two applicants that, or one approved project and an applicant for this project that are proposing to retime that traffic signal. There's a need for coordination for when that's going to happen. And what was important to the review consultant, given where our project is located, and we've talked about the queuing back toward the driveway, the sensitivity as it relates to that is that this signal retiming will reduce the queuing. And so what they wanted to make sure of was if Pine Oaks 4 doesn't implement the timing changes that were going to happen at the intersection prior to us asking for a C of O, they'd ask that we undertake those timing improvements because it would result in an improvement in operations at the intersection. It doesn't remove obligations from either applicant in terms of future retiming, but the sensitivity here was just really making sure that signal operates to its best performance if we're seeking a certificate of occupancy to reduce that potential for queuing back toward the driveway. They asked that we prepare a site triangle plan, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. The board's familiar with the importance of providing proper sight lines at the driveway. In this case, it's really wanting to make sure there's no vegetation where those site triangle areas are. Also focusing on the driveway, they had asked that we commit to installing do not block pavement markings across the driveway so that, again, looking at the queuing that might happen, signs and markings that say do not block this intersection, keep that intersection open for vehicles to enter and exit the driveway.
Can you do that, or do you have to get state or local approval?
Just
to do
local
that?
approval.
Just
So that would be subject to the same thing with the retiming of the traffic signal. These were within local jurisdiction. With the exception of the traffic signal, we'll have some interaction with Mass DOT, given the state right-of-way ends just to the north of the intersection, but still some coordination with the state as it relates to that, but mostly it'll be local approvals. That is definitely a local approval item.
I have a question for you. When this project is, this intersection is worked upon, is there gonna be a sign saying no right turn on red? Because I go up there quite frequently, and as you come out of Queen Anne, from, not Penrose, but at the other end of Queen Anne, people on a red light will turn right. Consequently, coming out of Queen Anne, from where we're talking about from your end of it, people will turn right.
It's allowed, though.
It is currently. My question is, will there be signage up there preventing that from being done since the traffic flow is going to become greater?
Allowed in one direction.
So we can certainly, I think,
Going east on Queen Anne, it's not allowed. If you're heading west on Queen
Westbound on Queen Anne, it's allowed to take a right-hand turn. Eastbound, it's not
Anne, it's
allowed.
not allowed.
so I think as you're, at the appropriate time, we're not proposing that, but that doesn't mean that that can't be something, again, at the appropriate time as you're thinking about conditions, is to say as the applicant undertakes these signal retiming changes, we have to analyze the signal, do some traffic counts, that's something that should be evaluated, and maybe it's just something to say to the extent that it doesn't result in detrimental traffic operations, or however you want to craft that, that it be implemented as a part of the timing plan, subject to local approvals.
But a right-hand turn there,
The problem is line of sight.
going westbound, from the property, going down westbound, at that location, isn't that the state's call?
The intersection is entirely within local jurisdiction. The state,
Really?
the state right-of-way ends just to the north of the intersection, so on the inner side.
So restricting right-hand turn at that place would make things possibly worse.
You reduce the capacity of
Right.
the intersection
Yeah,
by
let's-
doing that. So that's why I was saying, you
Oh.
could, if you were interested to see what would happen as a part of the signal retiming, and it's not uncommon that sometimes this gets put in a condition where you say you should evaluate it and present the results of that to determine if it's something that isn't going to result in a detrimental impact. at the location. Because retiming the traffic signal, just putting the sign up and then making sure the timing works is easy to do. It doesn't require any physical reconstruction other than putting a sign up.
Question further on the timing, I don't know if you want to hit the questions now, but
That's-
just in my mind, we know there's a queuing issue, right?
Right.
Already, not caused by Penrose, but it's already exists, getting exasperated a little. Is there a trade-off point where reducing the signal cycles starts to encourage people to try to beat the light versus the gain from, a queuing, unfortunately, the queuing gets too long is a problem, but the cycle times being too short becomes a problem because people start to try to beat the light, right? Because it's only, 30 seconds to get through or whatnot.
Yes, and so I think that's a balancing act that takes place. So we're trying to balance traffic operations at the intersection and really looking at the queuing. So we only have so much capacity at the intersection, so we balance out those two things. Obviously, if people are not obeying the yellow and the red light, all red that's up there, there's not too much we can do, but you're right. You don't want to short cycle it, and so that's kind of something that we would look at. Looking at the intersection, and basically because of the fact that at the present time, we only have one lane really on Queen Anne, there's not a lot of ability to short cycle any of the movements there because it's basically saturated. So once we establish what the optimal cycle length is, you're not gonna be able to short cycle anything. Just because as you think about the detectors on the approaches, there's always a call for, except, early morning, there's always a call for the phase. So it's always gonna be calling the phases on each one, so
So
it's,
is
yeah.
the likelihood, when these studies go on, that it'll be longer cycle times? Again, I realize it's to be determined, but
Yeah.
does it seem to lean more that direction?
There's a possibility of that happening. The trade-off of the longer cycle length is that you're gonna be holding one of the approaches longer. So the dynamic is really you increase the queuing, but if you have a longer cycle length, in theory, even though your queue's longer, it gets through the traffic signal, is what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
So at the board's request, we did look at sight lines at Oak Street and Bassett's Lane. As you remember, the police chief also had some comments as it relates to that. So we did provide that information. Probably no surprise, there are limitations to the sight lines there. And I know we had that conversation at one of the other meetings. We did identify it. We also identified some corrective actions that could be taking place. With some vegetation trimming in the northeast corner, it looked like it could happen in the right-of-way. We also did recommend some signs and advanced warning signs, which your VHB did review that, and it suggested that that be considered as a part of your deliberations on the project. All of those things can be done with permission from the town.
You only mentioned in that study that the vegetation, which is a problem when you, coming out of Oak Street on the left.
Right.
Certainly is. On the right side, there's a rise. And the cars coming, they don't go 35, right? They go 40, 42. Coming over there, they're on top of cars coming out of there in a second or two.
Especially the cars that are going, so we did measure travel speeds, but like when we're looking at the 85th percentile speed, which would be a little bit, lower than some of the speeds I think you're talking about, there's still 15% that are going faster than that.
Yeah.
And it's that 15% that are noticeable that don't have the proper sight lines. So, we had suggested that at least at a bare minimum, some of the vegetation trimming take place, and then also those advanced warning signs would also be helpful at the intersection. But, speed control measures, similar to some of the things we had talked about on the other side of Queen Anne Road, where at least if you're doing the radar speed signs, some things that I know the police department were interested in having done on the other side of Queen Anne Road might be something that would be beneficial on this side as well. Sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
well,
Chairman.
we're going to review that report at the June 11th meeting, because it just came from VHB.
Yes.
So we'll do that June 11th, but in reading the response to your report from VHB, it seemed to imply the fact that, given the codes on sightlines and our own zoning codes and so forth, as well as because of vegetation, that taking care of at least the vegetation may increase the sightline scenario so that it is reasonable, and you get good sightlines if you take care of vegetation issues and so forth.
For the majority of the drivers, that's right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll try to pick this up a little bit. So as I talked about the traffic signal timing, one of the other things that they had asked us to do is commit to implementing what's known as a post-occupancy traffic monitoring program. Again, this would be something as you get to the appropriate time of deliberations. What the post-occupancy monitoring program really does is looks at the amount of traffic that's produced, but I think importantly, and I think it's, I won't say it's less important now because our parking supply has been increased, was really to provide some feedback as to the parking on site, was to do some monitoring within the site to make sure, you know, the parking quantity is sufficient, but I think it could also be something along the lines of some of the questions that were asked, which is looking at generally the size of vehicles parked and where they parked. I mean, all of those can be built into that monitoring. We did commit to doing a follow-on study at the Pleasant Lake Main intersection to see what's happening with respect to the crash data. Again, I'll show you a figure in a minute, but there were recent improvements, and so the goal of that study is to see if those improvements are in fact reducing the amount of crashes. So we committed to, instead of a one-year look-back period as it relates to the crash data, looking at 3 years of crash data at the intersection to capture the improvements that were done there.
Jeff, VHB is also online tonight to discuss a few of these things, so if, you know, basically just be considerate of your time so we can move on the
Absolutely.
agenda.
So I'm gonna, as I said, I'll pick this up. This is the collision diagram for the Main Street intersection with Pleasant Lake. All I want to point out on this is that, and again, very hard to see, but the majority of the crashes are rear-end crashes coming into the intersection on the Pleasant Lake Avenue approach. What we pointed out as we looked at those crashes, so 24 crashes in total, they're distributed, but 10 of them are happening on that approach. And
Over
they're
how many
rear-end
years?
crashes. This was through.
Something wasn't one weekend, but go ahead.
No. So this is a 5-year period in terms of
Okay.
looking at the crash data. What we pointed out is this figure actually shows the recent improvements that were done there, which were to improve mobility, shorten crossing distance, reduce speeds as vehicles are turning at the intersection. But what we pointed out on the Pleasant Lake approach is you can see that skewed crosswalk. So the skewed crosswalk being set far back from the intersection causes that stop line to be about 30 feet back from the point where you can actually see a vehicle on Main Street. So what is happening is a lot of start, stop as vehicles move up to the intersection, and that's causing the rear-end crashes. So we did suggest that an opportunity would be to realign that crosswalk so it's perpendicular, which is what the typical alignment is. And that would allow that stop line to move closer to the intersection where sight lines would be. Simple fix, other than reconstructing the wheelchair ramp, but that was what we had pointed out, and VHB reviewed that and also suggested that that's a, you know, something that could be done in the future, but this follow-on study would be of this intersection to look at 3 years of more recent data using data from the Harwich Police Department. This is the site triangle plan, so to the, as would be to the plan west is where Pleasant Lake Avenue is, so what we had shown is those sight lines looking to the left or right coming out of the project site. What you see as you look at this is the sight lines are almost entirely located within the paved area. There's just a small portion that's on the infilled area or where, you know, there's no pavement. But what's also important is what you see is there's no real trees or vegetation in those areas. So VHB had asked for this just to confirm that the site triangle areas didn't require any vegetation removal, so that's what we've shown in the slide here. This is also important as we're considering the landscaping as well, to make sure landscaping, any signature signs, things like that, monument signs, are not located within the yellow area that you see here. So this will be a part of the site plan set really just to affirm that. And really, at the appropriate time, again, if the zoning enforcement officer needs to go out there, they have a plan that shows where those clear areas are supposed to be.
I'm not trying to, here I'm telling you to
That's-
speed things up, and I'm asking questions. All right. Now, my understanding is, in one of your first presentations back in December or early January, I kind of laid some doubt in the discussion regarding how much right-of-way the town had.
Yes.
And because you brought up that there's enough right-of-way for a third lane, and I shedded some doubts on that. Well, I was wrong. And my understanding is now there's 60 feet of right-of-way on that side of Queen Anne Road, which will allow for, at some point, the town to construct a third right turn-only lane.
That's correct.
As you establish monuments and landscaping and so forth, are you going to do it so the fact that it doesn't interfere with sight line if a third lane is put in?
And I think yes, and I think that, again, that would be something to capture in the conditions as well, is to make sure that, as we're looking at it, that maybe a line is established where that, we can establish a line as to what the widening might look like, similar to what we were talking about with the sewer line, and just really to say nothing gets put in this area. And so that's something that can be done as well, just to reserve an area. And it's common that you do that with these future road improvements, where the town or the state would say, don't put anything in this area because we might be widening the road. So I think we
okay.
can do that. The chair was correct, however, in the discussion as it relates to when we
Oh,
get,
thank you.
when we get to the intersection, the right-of-way, and this is what the highway department relayed as well, which is it's tight at the corners. So you've got some width as you come out to the intersection, but then as you get up to Pleasant Lake, I think what they just cautioned us on is the last time the town made the improvements, trying to make sure that we have proper corner radii there is something that needs to be considered as well. So I think that's where the pinch point's at the intersection, and that's what we need to be cognizant of. So the last things are just changes to the recommendations that came as a result of the VHB peer review. So I won't go through each one of these because we talked about them before, and just really focus on the highlighted area. So we talked about at Pleasant Lake and Queen Anne, just a commitment from the developer to implement optimal timing and phasing plan at the intersection to the extent that Pine Oaks 4 doesn't do it before we seek a certificate of occupancy. So that's a change from what you had seen in our original recommendation. Pleasant Lake and Main Street, where it says the 3-year period, looking at the crash data, it used to say 1 year, so that's been changed to 3-year to match what VHB had requested. Transportation demand management measures have not changed. Post-occupancy traffic monitoring, this is new. So we had listed what the post-occupancy monitoring program would look like for, and VHB has reviewed this. So it's collecting traffic volumes. It's looking at vehicle queues along Queen Anne Road westbound toward the driveway. So we're not only collecting volume of traffic going in or out of the site, but we're also looking at queuing to see if it's blocking the driveway. And then to the extent that that queue does extend back and block the intersection, that was the trigger to the do not block markings. So again, subject to the board, you could say we want the markings put in with the project, or you could say to the extent that the monitoring program shows the driveway's blocked, then you put it in. So this gives you that option. So that is the last slide, and I apologize in taking up so much time, but
No,
I'm happy to answer
it's
questions,
fine.
so we can move right
So I
along.
guess, Christine, we want to hear from VHB now?
Nate Peretta from VHB wanted to provide a 5-minute update on the civil
I'm
site.
happy to
plans
provide
as
Nate
well
6
as
minutes.
Stormwater.
Okay. Nate, are you available? Can you put the,
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
yeah, can we change the screen to show Nate? There we go. So Nate, you're going to be discussing stormwater management?
Yep, stormwater management, anything site related. But for the record, I am Nate Peretta, civil engineer at VHB. I've been working on this review with Frank DiPietro, who was representing VHB at the last hearing. Just to update the ZBA from the last meeting, the town staff arranged a meeting with VHB and the applicant. That was on May 4th. We went over and talked about the major topics that were discussed in the last hearing. I can summarize those major talking points, but Bowler is working through solutions, some of which you've heard just a few minutes ago, and they're responding to those items. So I can summarize those major talking points, if that pleases the board.
That'd be fine, thank you.
Okay. So some of the major points were, we've heard already, the parking count, and the potential off-site parking area. The points that VHB was making was that, these parking, spaces need, some accessible routes to them. And that the future parking and, will need utilities, lighting, stormwater, all of that will still need to be considered. Also, the ADA spaces, we want to make sure that these ADA spaces were tied to the ADA units. It seems like with Bowler's update. They've already begun to address that. We discuss accessible electrical vehicle space will be required. We discussed school bus pickup and drop-off coordination. We discussed a snow removal plan with calculations. We discussed cut fill quantities and the potential amount of truck trips. And then finally, we discussed the pedestrian access to Queen Anne Road and the federal requirement, ADA route legal interpretation. Bowler has indicated that they have a plan that will show what that access may look like. And then we also discuss a potential route down Bassett's Lane.
Will these plans be made available for our June 11th meeting?
Is that to Bowler, or is that?
To everybody, Bowler and Nate.
We don't have anything to share at this time. We can discuss that.
I mean,
and-
I haven't seen the results of this meeting in writing. And that's all I'm trying to say, the fact that
Understood.
what was discussed, like, for instance, you just brought up on snow removal plans. All right, what's happening? Okay?
Understood.
You know, I mean, just, so whatever you've decided to put in your site plan, I'd like to understand it. And in any case, what conditions may have to be, everyone agree to, that has to be put into the eventual decision.
Understood.
That's all I'm trying to accomplish here.
We can definitely expand on some of these. I think some of these will probably shake out already in our waivers.
Sure, I understand.
Discussion,
Right.
but yeah.
I would like to take a moment, if we could, to address the public accessibility. I know that was a conversation from our last meeting, and if there was a meeting today, I'd like to, from both parties, if you would, I'd like to hear where we went on that.
Joking, connecting the sidewalk to,
If it's a sidewalk.
If it's a
I'm
sidewalk.
talking about pedestrian availability.
I'm happy to start, or do you want to go ahead?
Well, we've discussed that one thing that I can clarify is this is not a subdivision. We are not asking for a waiver for a subdivision. And I'm not sure if you've been party to the opinion of town council.
I have.
And so, to summarize that, the state regs, architectural regs, they define what you need to construct if you are constructing an accessible sidewalk. But it doesn't require an accessible sidewalk.
Correct.
From a development like
Right.
this. And so if there's a requirement, there's discussion of a sidewalk which can be waived in a subdivision, but this is not a subdivision. This is one lot. And so we do not intend to develop a sidewalk, and normally they would. They would develop a sidewalk in places where it makes sense, but this doesn't make sense given the topography, given it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere. And so given the cost, and all of these costs take away from other expenses on the project. And so this is one place where if the site was flat, it would make sense, but it doesn't make sense here.
So if I might, Nate and from Bowler, was that the discussion today? You said there was a meeting.
On May 4th.
Yeah, on May 4th, yeah.
Sorry.
So I think the intent again is that we did explore it, and it's substantial length, it's substantial vegetation clearing of which we're hoping to maintain, and
I'm
we
just looking for decisions that were made at that meeting. That's all.
Yeah, so I think the way you've just summarized it is accurate, that any plan that would make its way to Queen Anne Road would result in substantial clearance, substantial grading work, substantial cost with no connection, unfortunately. I do want to note, Mr. Peretta, correct me if I'm wrong, you may have been referring earlier to an accessible route to the overflow parking, correct? Which we will provide, we have committed to providing.
Yep, yeah, those are two separate issues.
Okay.
Yep.
And if I may, again, I think we had a very productive discussion, and we're very well aligned with Mr. Peretta. I think most of the items, as he mentioned, we've addressed to date. I think the snow storage was mentioned. We've since run those calcs this week, and we're going to supplement with a plan. We got a little more thoughtful and added some additional spaces that we feel good about for snow storage. And then on the cut fill front, we have run those numbers, and we do have those calculations that we plan to share in the coming days. And then I think the idea is that they should have everything they need at that point to provide a response letter by May 21st, so well before the June meeting.
Good, excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further, Nate? I kind of
No,
cut you
that
off a minute
was,
ago, so I
that was my
apologize.
summary of the meeting. Again, I'm happy to dive into any of those items in more detail if it pleases the board.
Gentlemen? Okay. Oh, I guess we're all set. So thank you. Okay, are we ready at this point to go on to the next item on the agendas?
I believe so. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So, those who are in the audience, and so you know, originally, I was not aware of other memos for requests for opinions from town council and so forth that were sent, which they responded to. So, the handout that's on the table strictly applies to the motions and, I'm sorry, waivers and conditions. Questions point to the board. Do you think we should just go right to waivers and conditions and then get back to the responses on the other memos, or what would you suggest, Amy? You're
So,
right.
Mr. Chairman, the responses, I'm sorry, the waivers and conditions memo that you had supplied,
Right.
that they updated their waiver list. So the
Oh, oh.
waiver list that's on the document you're looking at, that has the updated waivers.
Right, in the document that everyone's got in the audience, that's updated as well.
Okay, great.
So I updated that at the town meeting the other night and
Okay.
sent it out.
Online. Have we already posted it? If people are listening online, is it available on our website?
I'll check right now.
Thank you.
Okay, that'd be great. So, I was wondering perhaps we could, in consideration of time, go through the waivers and conditions memo that I had done to discuss that first. Would everyone be in agreement on that? And then we'll get back to the other memos which you provided.
Which I can summarize
Right.
there's
So-
only a few issues there.
We're gonna be, gentlemen, you go in a few, like the fourth page of this report, and it shows waivers and conditions as proposed by the Chair of the Harwich Board of Appeals. First of all, the waivers that are indicated here are waivers which the applicant had
Is that
updated.
this one here, May 7th?
Yeah, you want to go, though, to, on that May 7th memo, you want to go to the fourth page, where it says, it's like the bottom third, waivers and conditions, okay? You got that, Chris?
I do.
All right. Please note, so the waivers that are requested, which we start off with that, were the waivers as requested by the applicant updated on May 5th. Anytime you see a condition, we get into it, condition request, that is not a condition report that came from the Board of Appeals meeting. That came from my summary of what I thought seemed to be the conditions everyone was talking about, and I wrote them up that way, okay? So there may be other conditions on these as you go through that other board members, may suggest, okay? So, in a lot of these, as you know, on these waivers requests, they're automatic, and it's from the fact that as the Board of Appeals is acting on behalf of all the other regulatory boards in town. And we're a Conservation Commission right now. We're the Board of Health Commission. We're the Planning Board. And if need be, we've been the Historic Commission, et cetera, all right? We're also serving on behalf of Cape Cod Commission, because they're looked at as a department. So basically, we go through all this, and the conditions we'll be talking about here represent the board. So these waivers requests, often these waiver requests are based upon the fact that they do not have to go to the Board of Planning Board. They don't have to go to the Conservation Commission, which actually isn't a requirement here, and they don't have to go to the Board of Health. It does not mean the fact that the Board of Health is not involved with the state on regulations of septic systems. It just means the fact that we're saying, you know, you don't have to do that, because it's this process, it all goes through the ZBA. So when we're granting waivers, it's not like we're granting opportunities for them to, you know, bypass actual law and code. It's just that we're bypassing the process of, now it goes through us. Okay? Okay. Enough said. First waiver, section 325-8. And perhaps on the waivers themselves, if you'd like to address it, and then we'll just go through it.
Sure. If I could just say one thing, we are, because this is a 40B, we are sometimes asking for something that would otherwise not be allowed under regular zoning, and that's.
Correct.
part of
That is one
Right.
part of it, too.
Right.
But
And so
many
I
of
just
them
wanna
are.
make sure that's not
Right.
misunderstood here. All right, so, section 325-8, table 1. Do you want me to read this out, or just explain why? we
Just
need-
explain why each one.
Sure, okay.
Unless somebody wants it read, I don't believe so we need it. We just look for explanations.
Sure. This is a waiver that we need because otherwise multifamily use would not be allowed in Six Ponds District.
Right.
If we were in the residential district, it wouldn't be allowed at this level of units, single-family homes would have this meaning. So that's the reason we're asking for that waiver. The second waiver, there are different setbacks for the Six Ponds District that are greater than in the rural residential district, and we need waivers for that. Specifically, there's a 26.3 feet proposed, where 50 feet were in A of the Six Ponds District would be required. Number 3, there are some of these that are conditional, and so,
I understand, go ahead.
flag those, okay. So, should Bassett's Lane be determined to be a public road as is anticipated, we do need a front setback. Bassett Lane becomes a road that requires a front setback, so we need a waiver from that. 25 feet is proposed where 50 feet is required.
What does the 80, it says 50/80.
80. The Six Ponds District has an A and a B part, and so there are greater setbacks if you're in the B section of the Six Ponds District, that's 80 feet. But we're in the A section. It's a little bit hard
That's
to
fine.
figure out from the map, so we were careful to put both in. But after,
Thank you.
yeah, that's fine. Okay, for 4, so this is a little wonky, but because Bassett Lane, if it's a public road, creates a front yard, you cannot have parking in your front yard, more than 4 parking spaces in your front yard. And so we're asking for a waiver for that reason. And I actually need to clarify that I talked with our engineers afterwards. I thought I needed the same waiver on the Pleasant Lake Avenue side, but she confirmed that the parking is not within 50 feet of that, so I don't need the second half of that waiver.
All right, so where do we,
You can scratch out
And where?
and where,
okay, so that goes away.
correct. Okay, 5, again, it's conditional on Bassett Lane. There needs to be a landscape buffer of at least 15 feet from the street, and we need a waiver from that because it's closer.
Folks, any questions so far?
You mean on the first 5?
Yes, in the first 5?
No.
Okay, all right.
Okay, on 6,
Before we get to
we want to
that,
talk to about the
so
conditions?
one condition that,
We'll agree to that.
okay,
Okay.
I might just add in if I could, and it might be to Christine. Is there a chance that the town would abandon that end of Bassett Lane so they wouldn't need any of these things?
I'm not positive to abandon.
Bassett's Lane, the west end, which
Yes.
is just north of this,
Pleasant
of the
Lane,
Penrose
I
development.
don't believe the town would abandon it at this stage. We're in, the town right now, just to give you a brief update, is administration has instructed VHB to begin to review a scope of work for design and engineering for Bassett's Lane, as well as title and deed research for the property. So until we get more information, I think it would be premature to say, but I think the intention is to develop Bassett's Lane, particularly for the access to the north.
So
So-
Bassett's Lane, yeah. if you could-
Just to clarify that, or no, to further, it doesn't need clarity, but to further add to that, the town is looking at two options regarding egress onto 124 for right-hand turn in and right-hand turn out of Bassett Lane, as well as, so that a lot of the traffic that might go down to Queen Anne Road eventually can go down and people going to work can take a right-hand turn onto 124 and then head to Route 6. The other location on the Affordable Trust property is at the north corner of the site. There's an existing curb cut already, what was approved for the one-person property, which doesn't mean it's automatically approved, for the scope of development that's happening. So that they're also looking into talking to DOT regarding the option of making that a right-hand turn into the property and a right-hand turn out.
So that's what the Bassett Lane discussion's about.
Right, so actually, there would be then a connector road to go up to the north part of the property.
Yep.
Which I'm sure the Affordable Trust will, grant easement for people that get on the, Bassett Lane and have the right-of-way easement, so they can now further access up to the north corner. The idea is to get as much traffic we can going up the property on 124 and
That would
eliminate.
significantly add to the safety of this.
Oh, I think it's huge.
I think it was 40% of the vehicles would be able to use that route.
Right. Yeah, that makes a big impact on
Yeah.
that intersection. Okay,
Okay.
so we agreed to the dumpsters. I can now sleep.
Conceptually, we haven't
Concept-
taken any votes.
Right.
Okay, wait a minute. The applicant has agreed to the dumpster.
That's different.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, all those in favor? Okay, we won't do that now. All right, so next one, number 6.
Number 6. Number 6, Penrose and the Affordable Housing Trust have, as you know, just today had a discussion and a motion and vote on, the agreement's not written yet,
Sure.
but the agreement to
Spirit.
agree has been approved.
Yes.
And so there is a concept of adding 20 parking spaces off-site with the description of the lighted and the spaces we're showing here. And I do want to flag that this is an offer on behalf of Penrose that, how to say this in a nice way, you could not force on Penrose.
I realize that.
And so we just would like to get credit for it, because it is.
3, 4 credits?
Right. But it is a big ask, but the point really is Penrose wants this project to work. It wants it to operate smoothly, they want it to be a good place for tenants who live there. And to the extent that they can make accommodations like this with a willing partner, their co-applicant, the Affordable Housing Trust, we scrambled into this in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, it relieves a lot of concerns on those special holidays and so forth, and visitor
Understand.
parking, where there's no place to park on 124 or Queen Anne Road.
We don't want people crossing over to
Right,
the
and
other
I
parking.
just think it helps make the community, a little bit more convenient and less concerns.
Right. Glad
But
to hear it.
I know Ryan doesn't want to get out there on Easter to be directing traffic, so.
Okay, so number 7. So I can
Mr.
just
Chairman?
flag,
Yes, I'm sorry.
If I may, while I appreciate that Penrose wants to be recognized for what they did, that's not really an explanation of the waiver. So
Right, let me
the
go- I was about to go
explanation of
back
the
to the
waiver
waiver. Let me go
has
back.
to do, it
Certainly.
has to do with location, so
Right.
the zoning bylaw requires that parking be on the same lot,
right.
and then 44,
It allows for parking to be on the same lot if it's commercial, if it's residential, it needs to be on the same lot.
We're still wavering,
Commercial,
we're
right.
we're still providing a waiver from the actual
Correct.
104, 105 that
Correct.
would be required.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, so 44 has to do with special cases where parking may be provided on lots separate from a non-residential use, so that, I don't even know if you, not sure if you need a waiver from that, because you don't even apply. It
The way
doesn't
I-
comply, it
the
doesn't
way I
apply
read
to
the-
you.
The way I read the bylaw was that if you have if you have a commercial site, you can have off-site parking,
Mhm.
but you cannot have off-site parking if you have if it's a residential site.
But if you're already getting a waiver from
Mm.
41,
Right, I'm
I
trying to
don't think
be-
you need 40.
It's a done deal.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would like to reduce
Certainly.
reduce the amount of
Okay.
waivers.
That becomes a
Okay.
condition, not a waiver.
Yeah, but they do need a waiver from 41, which requires that that parking be on the same.
But not 325-44.
I don't think they need that.
So
Okay.
that waiver stops at 325-41, period.
all right, that works.
All right, and the rest of it goes away.
Okay. And then the material requirements of 325-43 and the technical adherence to 325-132.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm sorry, where are you at this point?
Sorry, I'm midway through number 6.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So really, all we're taking out is and 325-44A.
Okay, that's all we're taking out.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Because they're going to be on a compacted gravel site rather than a paved site. Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's it. So the rest of it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, number 7. This is the waiver about the number of parking spaces required. We are providing, just in an excess of caution, we're providing the 83 spots on site where 102 are required. And again, we're providing the 103 in the combination on-site, off-site, where 102 spaces are otherwise required.
So Amy, I'm going to defer to you, that was a little confusing for me. Is that, it's still a waiver?
I
In
don't,
other words, what's in parentheses doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter, that's
I
kind
don't
of,
think this is a waiver because they're getting a waiver from 325-41.
Yeah,
Which again
so we
requires-
can eliminate this waiver.
I think so.
okay, good.
And this happens a lot when, they want to make sure.
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
If you're telling me I don't need the
Right,
waiver
right.
and I'm covered, I'm
Yep,
fine.
yep.
Okay. So there's a condition, pedestrian access from the auxiliary parking to Penrose Development will be provided with lighted sidewalks. We agree to that condition. Number 8.
But the condition says 30, I'm sorry, Mr.
Sorry.
Chairman.
Yeah, originally it was 30
Yeah,
when I,
so we changed that to 20.
20.
Mhm.
Now,
Oh,
I
sorry,
had,
20.
for that condition and that size here, I go into the standard size for parking, because you're not gonna be able to line up the stones as it, you have your parking size in the main
Right.
lot. How are we addressing those 20 spaces as far as size of parking area?
How do we
I
lay it out?
had requested it still be to current code, just to.
It is, 20 by 9.
Okay, so they do 20 by 9, all right, good.
Do you know how we laid it out? Oh, we laid it out by, so we'll need to take a look at that, because we laid it out by 9 by 18, and they,
Yeah, lay it out by 9 by 20, if you could. The reason for that is, I look at that area as being for people who gotta put the big trucks, or whatever it might be, on workforce housing and the larger trucks. That's an area where they're gonna have to sometimes go based upon your management of the property, if it's too big a truck.
yeah, we'll
That's a
take-
thought.
Yeah,
So
we'll
that's
take a look
why-
at that, we just want to make sure that it fits in the area that the trust kind of approved for it, and that
Well,
the,
you can always go back to the trust, one of them sitting in the middle of the room here, and,
well, we
sure-
don't have that approval yet.
I'm sure they'll
so
give you a
we-
couple of feet here and
Make
Yeah.
sure
there.
you include it as 20 by 9 and work it out.
It's 20 by 9, that's the hopeful deal.
Okay.
Right, I have a
Sure.
a little confused on said the 325-39A is not required because of 325-41? Is that what we're saying?
So
41 is location of
right,
requirements.
so they're actually their combined parking between the on-site and off-site is 103, and they only need 102. So because we can count the off-site spots because of 325-41, they don't need number 7.
So the well, is it considered multifamily? I mean, what parking, because that's, are you still up to 1.5 units per efficiency and 2 per 2-bedroom unit? I don't think,
So
And they're at 1.37
that's what gets you to 102?
for
overall.
all of them,
102 is 1.72 spaces per unit.
But the 325-39 speaks to specific number of parking spaces per unit, not a percentage. Yeah, I'm just trying to
That's,
make
you're
sure.
absolutely right. It does.
I mean, the percentage is is based on how many studios and how many 2-bedrooms and 3-bedrooms there are.
Right.
So basically, what 325-39 says is that for multifamily, you have to have 1.5 spaces per studio and 2 per 2-bedroom unit. And that may come out to the
Right.
102, for all I
Right.
know, but I just want to make sure that that's,
Okay.
Okay, well,
does
that's-
that come out to
Make
102?
Yeah.
So if
does.
it comes out to 102
Yeah.
and they're providing
then
103,
they're
they're
okay,
good.
right?
Right.
But if that calculation comes out to something
I
more
don't
than
know.
I'll double check.
103,
I'll-
you
I'll-
still need this waiver, I guess.
I'll
is
double
the-
check. Okay, it's probably on the site plan. Okay, so
I think we're on number 8.
I think we are as well. Okay. So we're asking for the waiver on the size of parking. We've talked about that today as to why and what we're doing in terms of adding compact parking at the turns, at the tight points, so that what we're asking for will work. That in addition to providing excess parking off-site. There's a suggested condition. The connector road from Queen Anne Road to C Street should be widened. I don't think that this is possible. I don't think we can agree to that.
Where are we right now?
We are on
Condition, connector road,
before number 9.
okay. You,
Mark or Zach, would you mind
Wait a
speaking to that one?
I've got 9
About
as
the
site
bike?
plan.
No, it's the
Oh, it's
condition
right
to
above.
add the bike lane,
Sorry.
Ken.
Oh.
we're after 8. Okay, so
Yeah, we're not-
basically,
still on eight.
Yeah, got it.
we're waiving the situation regarding a sidewalk to Queen Anne Road. Or actually, you're not a subdivision, but we're not gonna condition you needing a sidewalk to Queen Anne Road, right? Well, we probably won't, okay.
Can't.
Well, anyways. Still concerned that people are gonna be walking on that connector road to Queen Anne Road. It's already been reduced in size, as it is, in width from the standard requirements. And at this point, we're looking for a bike lane, which people are gonna be biking. And now we've got a reduced road, I believe, thought was here, a bike path, should be installed on the road to give that access and that additional width, which may be used besides with bikes by walkers, going down that road. So, I'm not an engineer, but just looking at the plan, it seemed like there's a lot of green around there somewhere that should be able to help to put in, a bike path.
I'll let Mark speak to this.
And I think we're talking about from Queen Anne, is it C Street? Is that the name
Yeah, right
of
up
the
to-
first road?
Yeah, we're just looking
It's
right up
not a
to,
road.
we're looking up to here, this
Yes.
intersection.
Yes,
Is that C Street?
So that's the intersection of A and C.
Not
correct?
anymore?
right.
It's
Okay.
A Street.
It's not a street, it's a driveway out.
Ah, that's
Okay,
right.
it's a driveway.
Mark, it's a
So I can-
southern
I-
driveway.
I can speak a little bit to that, and then, the significant grade change from Queen Anne Road up to the intersection that we're discussing of the driveways, widening that to accommodate a bike lane would require us to build retaining walls on either side that would be sizable.
Really?
Yeah, the grade change there is about 16 feet from where building 1 is down to Queen Anne Road.
So you're saying to me where the driveway is now, going up, you step off that 2 or 3 feet, and you drop 16 feet?
It goes up to the buildings, so you're below where the buildings are.
As you're approaching the site and go towards, into the site.
Driving
it's a
into the site.
16-foot
Yeah, the biggest difference is 16 feet.
So is it fair to say that widening in either direction, because of the proximity of the buildings and other site infrastructure to either side, that is what would result in the construction of the
You
retaining?
can't widen that road a foot and a half on either side, on both sides, and then make the thing happen. I have a little,
Yeah.
again, I have a little difficulty being at the site, imagining that we've got an 18-foot connector road going in here, see a bunch of trees, a lot of green. Again, I'm not looking at the grading factor, but I'm just requesting you to shave off a foot and a half from each side, so we can create a reasonable pedestrian access on what's already a minimum width road. And people will be using bikes going down that road to get onto Queen Anne and to head over to the bike path. Which, by the way, in your proposal, you use the fact the access to the bike path as one advantage of this location. So let's let the people get there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the widening the road would require the retaining walls, and I'll let Zach speak a little bit more to that, but it's also, it wouldn't be a pedestrian access, it'd be a
I
bike.
realize
a
that, it's
bike
by
road.
bikes. I know that.
And in some instances, it's actually safer to have a integrated bike lane with the drive lane. So with striping indicating that there
I
are,
agree with that.
and in this case, where if we had a bike lane there and cyclists were riding down the hill, past cars potentially waiting to leave, who are more concerned with watching traffic to turn, I think it's an increased chance of conflict. And
As opposed to having a smaller width road with them still going the same thing. So what you're gonna say is, the residents here are not allowed to have bikes. Just asking that question.
I think I think the point that Mark was trying to make is, with a more integrated, this is a pair of bicyclists in the city of Boston talking right now, so
Yeah.
we're very much advocates.
Yeah,
but-
I do a lot of biking myself.
Very good. But with integrated bike lane, with bike traffic in with vehicular traffic, they would effectively be joining the queue to exit the property onto Queen Anne if they're choosing to go that route, rather than zipping by and creating potential conflicts at the.
I mean, I agree the fact that people are going to be, there can be a problem here. But folks, it's gonna be happening anyways.
Brian?
Yeah.
We're gonna explain why they can't do it.
Okay, I
Can we hear
understand.
that?
I apologize, but I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, again, I think, the slopes are maxed out at 3-to-1, right? So we're trying to avoid retaining walls at that entrance.
understand.
I think that's one thing, right? That's one piece of it, is avoiding the retaining walls. The topography being a challenge, it being very steep there. I think the big issue that we just highlighted is once you start adding a dedicated bike lane, it's not just a couple feet. You need to actually avoid liability and do that in a safe manner. You need a lot more space. And we think that the better path forward is to have a sharrow, again, where the bicyclist is using extra caution instead of feeling like they're safe in their lane. That the better action is to kind of, similarly to how they're gonna have to bike on Queen Anne Road when they get down there, right? It's not like
I
we're
appreciate that.
leading into a bike lane.
So, just to make sure from a road standpoint, we're saying that the current road, you have a correct 3-to-1 ratio on the grade. If you widen that, you won't be able to put that in because of the topography, and you'd have to put a retaining wall in?
Correct.
All right.
Or extend farther out.
You'd be beyond, recommended slopes, but again, it comes down to kind of I think the widening that would be needed to truly accommodate it.
How
And
much
then you
more
get
would
a
it be?
question of, one way
Top of your
versus
head.
two-way.
Sorry to interrupt you, but off the
Yeah.
top of the head, that 16-foot differential over, 75, 80 feet? What does that translate into as a slope percentage?
I believe it was about 8%, 8 to 9% slope,
the
off the
entrance?
top of my head,
in the driveway.
on the driveway up.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, again, I don't want to refute Brian's concerns, but I do understand the point of a cyclist coming down, say, a 9% grade is just going to gain more speed with their own lane.
Yeah.
And I think that would kind of create, if it was flat, I might be 100% with Brian. But a 9% grade going down, they're just going to pick up speed.
Yeah, my comment is the fact that they're gonna be picking up speed anyways going down that street.
Not
There's
if they don't
more-
have
more
room,
width
they
here.
gotta wait behind the car that's waiting in the queue.
Okay,
They're gonna
If
go
I-
around them.
that may be a reasonable point.
If I may, to
Are you
the,
finished with your question?
Yeah,
I think it was answered.
if I may, to the extent that it would please the board, we are more than happy to add paint, sharrows, whatever is appropriate to signal that this is a shared space, where bikes are
Caution,
welcome.
say a
And we
shared
want
space.
people to own bikes here,
Well,
100%.
I like to, you can consider what you can do in something like that, because I'm just considering the fact that people are gonna be using bikes, and I'm concerned about their safety entering and exiting the development when they're using bikes.
I mean, there may be an outlet as Bassett's Lane is further developed, that will be another way to get out. It's
But,
gonna
you know,
take a
5
long
years from now,
time.
perhaps, but
It's gonna
yeah.
take a while, yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying it's just not on
Point
an
of clarity,
island.
if I could. Someone mentioned 18 feet wide roads. I think that entranceway is 22 feet, correct?
That's,
18 feet of grade change
18
to
feet
the
of grade change,
building.
but it is a 22-foot wide, right?
Correct.
And you're suggesting you can't go to 24, even if we gave you a setback variance for building 14, so it would be on the east side?
Every foot of width that we take out of the road is 3 feet of grading space on
Okay.
either side. So if you widen the road by 3 feet, you need 9 feet on either side to absorb that,
Not on both sides, but on either side.
on both sides.
So you need 18 feet.
to
Or
expand.
or half of that 9, 4.5 on each side. All right.
That,
More of a problem than I expected.
is it though? I mean, that's from an elevation standpoint to maintain the slope, not from a width standpoint. That would only be true if the elevation slopes off.
Correct.
On
Yeah,
either
if we
side,
weren't
does
doing
it?
retaining walls. If we weren't doing retaining walls.
But where the drive comes down, the space on either side, does it continue to slope off? In a downward manner?
Both. Yes. So,
So that's why you're having to go farther into that cut.
yes.
To
Yeah,
maintain
so
the 3 to 1.
As you enter the site, the first part of it slopes down because there's a depression between the road and site. And then you start climbing up, and the remainder of the site where the buildings are, where the amenity spaces are higher than the driveway.
But the tight spot is just past, sort of in the middle, looks like. About halfway there is where your
Yeah.
tightest, right?
Correct.
From a standpoint.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
More of an issue than I thought.
could you say again what you said you were willing to do, painting and something else?
the term we refer to as sharrows.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. Okay.
Meaning a portmanteau of sharing the road and arrows. You'd probably, you'd probably
I
would-
never would have thought it was that, okay.
Yeah.
Share roads.
Wow, I feel really stupid, okay.
I think that is like a DOT
Sharrows.
symbol as well.
Okay.
I think
Right.
that's a.
So, and you'll paint it on the ground?
We'll do that.
Something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
So we'll come up with a condition for that, Mr. Chairman.
that's, thanks for explaining that to me.
Thank you for advocating for bikes.
Not a problem. I didn't be
You ever
so
heard of
passionate about that, but certainly,
Good, I don't feel that dumb.
certainly identify my ignorance regarding what's required to do this kind of thing.
Well, so noted, you're disappointed.
I'm glad you didn't say, so no, you're ignorant. But
So
go ahead.
moving on to the next condition, restrict with parking signs, the trucks and vans at key turning corners. I just correct that to compact cars only versus passenger cars.
Yeah, I'll leave it up to,
Yeah,
I just was
that makes
concerned about those locations. I mean,
Okay.
Understood.
Mhm.
That's a pretty standard wording in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Parking garages, a lot of places like that.
Right. And to me, it seems smaller than passenger car.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty
Yeah.
obvious, but that is.
Right.
I think it's just, again, yeah, sometimes trucks even, or pickup trucks could be considered passenger vehicles with the terminology, so this just guards against that, I think.
So it's gonna say restrict, parking with signs that state compact cars only?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
okay, excellent.
Okay, the next condition, we agree.
Okay, agreed, okay. Next condition was having residents not being able to park motorhomes or travel trailers or boat parking, on the site. And I think that would include the auxiliary parking area as well.
As stated.
As stated. Okay,
Okay, 9,
I'm just looking at the site plan approval process and a bunch of conditions for that in there as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, on your condition, you say nor on auxiliary parking on north site. But we don't know where that is yet.
Yeah,
You wanna just make reference to off-site parking?
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Okay. So there's a condition after 9, additional handicap parking accessible to clubhouse and mail facility without decreasing the existing number of non-handicap spaces on the
Oh,
site.
can I
plan.
go back for a
I think we've
second?
done this.
Can I just go back to
Mhm.
the last condition of motorhomes?
Sure.
This is a management decision, you do this. There are some motorhomes today where they're the same size as a regular van. So people have a Sprinter chassis van. And again, after over 20 years in the RV business, I understand these things. So that I'm okay with, because they might still be classified as a motorhome, but they're standard van size of, under 20 feet.
I think, to
So I
me,
just want to throw that in, I just want you to, I think, accept as, I don't know how to word the condition here, but,
Perhaps we
there
could get rid of it.
there are standard passenger vans which people, they buy that actually have motorhome aspects to it, which are the same van that you're gonna get at any,
Yeah.
Dodge lot or whatever.
I think Penrose is going to manage this in a way so that people don't park ginormous things
Right.
on off-site parking or anywhere on site. But I think that they can handle that through their own leases rather than a condition of
Could
this
consider,
permit.
except as approved by whatever. I just thrown that out because I
That's
don't want to
fair.
be restrictive when there's actually, people might have their own standard car or van, which is under 20 feet, that actually has a motorhome classification.
Mr.
Why don't
Chairman,
they
do
just
we
come
know
back
how-
with a
do
condition
we know
with a
how they're
size?
titled?
Just come back with a
Sure.
condition.
Okay.
They'll be titled as a Ford or a Dodge.
No, would they get a license plate that says truck, they get a license plate that says
No,
passenger vehicle?
no, it just is a regular license plate.
Then does a motorhome have a separate plate?
I think
No.
Amy had a good suggestion, which is to size. Like, there's some size that you all are not
Yeah,
comfortable
they'll
with.
come back with.
Okay.
they'll
Yeah,
come back
just once you consider that,
Sure.
but just work it
Go
out.
by size, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Well, you don't want to have standalone trailers sitting there in the,
Taking up space.
yeah,
Or boats,
or boats,
much as it hurts me.
unless they tuna fish, right?
That's right.
Okay, I think you've already addressed this.
We
Yes.
have. So this, just for everyone here, it's an additional handicap parking accessible to the clubhouse and mail facility without decreasing the existing number of non-handicap spaces on the site plan. I think what you're asking is for Penrose to provide more than is otherwise required of handicap spots, and we are doing that.
Right. This is,
Yeah,
Does it have to remain a condition then, or
does it?
has it already been done in the plan?
as long as, if we're
Site
approving the
plan.
site plan with a
It's on the
6 on
site
there,
plan,
it's a
yeah.
done deal.
Right,
So you don't need a
so-
condition. I don't believe you need a condition.
Amy,
Okay.
agree?
Agree. I'll take it out.
Okay. Site coverage, and there've been some teeny tweaks on, with the parking, the changes in parking, so we're gonna just recalculate the proposed coverage, and so we may be coming back with a slight change on that. It may not be a different. But with number 10, site coverage as proposed 42, and 30 and 15 are the maximum allowed. 30 is under the 6 ponds. And so,
Can I ask a more procedural question for Amy on this one? I know that in our zoning code, there is a separate section for the Six Ponds area, but many of the sections refer back to definitions in the main code
Right.
or other things. By noting these sections in the Six Ponds area, does it incorporate by reference those other items? So like the building height and bulk things. There is a separate table, but like for lot coverage, for the definitions, it refers back to, the main,
Appendix A?
appendixes. So I'm just not sure if we need additional references when it's in the Six Ponds area, or,
If I were the applicant, I would ask for these to be waived, because they are, even though it's an overlay, they are still subject to it.
so you'd want
That's
the
fine.
underlying one as well?
right,
Yeah.
right.
I just didn't
What do
see
you
it
mean as
elsewhere.
well?
Well, because normal height and bulk is under what?
Not 325-19.
325-16.
But they might meet the underlying, they just don't meet the overlay,
I don't think they meet either.
and they would need that.
All right, so we'll get a,
Make a point of that.
So we've got, 10 is for site coverage, 11 is for building coverage, 16% proposed, 10% max. That's the same for both Six Ponds and the rural residential. 12, 325-97, the building height. We have an exhibit, Exhibit A, that provides specifically to the buildings what the waivers are.
all
I
right,
was gonna say, for example, in the standard code, maximum site coverage in RR is 25%. Yep, so.
So what?
Yeah, so we meet the 25%, that's why we didn't add that, but the 10% is the
I'm talking
Six
more to the
Ponds.
section reference, not so much that you need the waiver.
Right.
But is it referring to enough sections in our
Yes, because
code?
they don't need the waiver from the underlying.
Okay,
They
so
only
that was
need the
kinda my
waiver from
question.
the overlay.
Okay,
So they are citing to the overlay, and you're getting a waiver from the overlay, but they don't need it for the underlying.
even if some of the definitions in the overlay refer back to the base
Yep.
code?
Yep.
That was
It's
really-
the overlay that's more stringent, so that's why they need them.
Okay. And so the building height is 30 feet, I've just mentioned that. We can go through Exhibit A if you'd like to, but I'd just like to
I'm all
reference it.
set.
Okay,
Gentlemen, you'll, okay.
all right.
And so we measure building height from grade, I'm just looking at Exhibit A,
Average grade.
average, so average building height?
Again, the definitions, it should be from average grade.
It's from average grade to the highest point of
The
the
highest
ridge.
point.
But, okay, but Appendix A gives me grade from the low point, grade from the high point, height from the low grade, height from the high grade,
Yep.
average building height, they do not give you what you're just making reference to.
Yeah, the code says average, the average of the two.
Right, so does this reflect that?
I don't think it does, but I also don't know that we've encountered a situation where that calculation is gonna be different for every single building.
We will go and check that and
Yep.
report
Here
back.
we are, that's full.
So you're gonna redo Exhibit A?
Yes.
Or
If
review
we- If
Exhibit A?
needed, we will, yes.
Divide the two of them by two.
Yes,
It would be
yes,
like
because you're
38.
taking out some.
Yeah.
So you will, yeah.
Excuse me, Amy, say it again, please?
She said she would redo Exhibit A if needed, but I said it is needed because she's taking out some waivers. So she would want to resubmit Exhibit A after tonight.
Perfect,
Right.
good. That'd
She
be
has
helpful.
up until we close it for her to
Understand
make
that.
changes to those, so
Right.
But it's average from what?
You average the high point and the low point. So this is where, again, with multiple buildings, I'm not exactly sure how you interpret this, but if this was a single-family home, you would average the high point and low point of the site. That's your grade, and the top of the building cannot be higher than whatever the prescribed height is from that point.
Hi, this is Paul Atman, Union Studio Architecture and Community Design Architect. I think we gave you too much information, because I think we wanted to prove out that we did the measurement from a low grade around the building to the highest, got the average grade, trying to lead you through to our calculation. So if we could take a chance to simplify this for you, we'll do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
For my own curiosity, when you say the high and low grade, did you take like a perimeter X number of feet around the building to determine that? Because it's not the whole site, because you have a
No, no,
different
it's around
calculation for
each-
every building.
Each specific building,
Foundation-wise?
yes.
Because,
But
again.
we don't go by
the
foundation
calculation
height.
is usually based on the site.
You look at the average grade of the site,
Not the perimeter of the building. Again, for a single-family home, I don't, again, you know.
I would think
this
for
is a different
multifamily
application.
homes, the multiple site, buildings,
That-
you'd
that
have to
can't
do
be-
it differently.
That can't,
that can't be right.
no, because then it would be the same average grade for every building.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't-
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm
Wouldn't be
saying,
the
that's
whole
what I'm saying,
site.
I'm a little, if it was a single-family home, that's the way you would do it. So I'm not sure when there's multiple buildings on a site, whether there's some other, again, I don't have this memorized.
Right?
Whether there's some
Neither
other
do I.
guide that says how you can
Right.
calculate it for multiple, buildings on one site. But I am confident I understand how it works for a single-family home.
Well, we could work with the town and get clarification and make sure that that reads correctly then.
We'll talk to the building commissioner.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
13 is 325, 132, the illumination levels. We talked about this at the April 28th meeting. We are intentionally keeping that common green not illuminated at the levels that would otherwise be required. Asking for a waiver for that. And then,
So, may I? I'm sorry. It says, building structure height, this is in the definitions.
Yep.
The height of a building or structure shall be calculated by averaging the distance between the lowest pre-existing grade point at the base of the building structure and the top of said structure, and the distance between the highest pre-existing grade point at the base of structure and the top of said structure. Because if you
Averaging.
did, if you did the average of the lot, you could have a lot that's, 20 acres, and you're just building one house, that, it just wouldn't, I don't think that
It's
would
the
work.
distributive math thing.
Okay, I-
That would come out with the same calculation
All
no
right,
matter
so
the
I don't
size.
do math. I can do the reading, I can't do the math.
But it's more like if you're on a bluff,
Okay.
right? And, depending on where you want to build your house on the site, if you're way up high, you can't then build really high, right? Because, the average of the slope, that's why people put their buildings in the middle of the lot a lot of times when they're on a hillside and everything. Because you can't be on the high end and then build a high house. But again, I'm out of my
Me too.
zone of confidence when we talk about multiple buildings on a site.
Landscape, yep.
And after we do the landscape and site development, we're just gonna take a brief break, okay, someone else,
okay.
okay?
We agree with all these conditions.
One that may have been a procedural error, we discussed it briefly with, I think, one person, there was not a quorum on the site visit, but it came up in another
Well,
40B,
I'm gonna
not to be mentioned, but
Review the problem.
there are invasive
And let's see where that
plants on
leads
this
us.
site.
Okay.
I don't wanna
and
tell them.
Previous things we were required that they be
I wanna
removed.
challenge them, how do we resolve this problem?
I would suggest that as an additional condition, that, there's definitely invasive plants, non-native invasives that are serious ones. I think conservation, if they look at it, would.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Asian knotweed
Oh, yeah.
exists all over this property.
Did we
Oh,
do
not
that,
really?
We did that for
we did that
POV.
POV, so I'll do the same condition?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they need to
Would
be
it-
aware.
Yeah, would it make sense to agree to best faith efforts for that? I don't know what the verification of an entire
I think
site
we
like
did
that.
that for POV.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we agreed to
POV was
identify
just,
the
it was
area.
just in the wetlands, right? They didn't have to go along all
That's right.
30 acres.
Where it was,
That's right.
where it was identified, and then I
Yes.
think they agreed to scrape down to a certain level and
Oh.
remove
Right.
Okay.
that area.
You want to comment on that?
And in fact, I think conservation agreed to mark out where they are.
Again, during you start your site plans, site development, it's probably best, because that's site, get rid of the invasive plants up front before that they really go in and do a numbering and landscaping later on.
The
Okay.
knotweed cannot be killed without the harshest of chemicals, so it needs to be removed.
Okay, let us convene on that
So-
and report back, because I'm hearing it may be.
It says, the condition that we did for POV is invasive species as identified by the Conservation Department in wetland C shall be removed and replaced with native plants.
Okay.
It's only in
I
wetlands.
think where I'm
So we
talking
could-
about is probably where the buildings are, so you're probably gonna scrape off, a fair amount of that dirt anyways, and I know you're doing the whole spoils,
But here, there's no wetland.
cutting and balancing and everything, but to me, you wanna remove it from the site.
That may be the case. I'll note, there are no wetlands proposed in this proposed development. We can discuss it. To the extent that it's, crawling and weeding, for the entire 6-acre site.
And again, I think it's from the discussion we had on the site again, which was, a tour, is that there's clearly some spoils piles that were
Right.
brought in from other places.
Right.
And they brought in with them non-native weeds.
Understood.
And, those are gonna have to be either graded or something anyways.
Okay.
Specifically, were you saying knotweed? Is
Asian
it-
knotweed.
Okay. Yeah,
We'll talk,
that's a-
if you know
Yeah, I
what I'm
do.
talking about,
I
it's
do know.
nasty.
Okay.
It is the only weed that the USDA recommends that you kill with Roundup, because you can't kill it any other way.
So perhaps, because we can't use the same condition because they're not subject to conservation jurisdiction. So, perhaps we would ask for them to submit an invasive species plan, removal plan, and you determine where you're going to remove it based on your landscaping plan, because you don't want them, you know, they're going to landscape this whole place, you don't want them coming in, so around where the buildings are, maybe? Submitted it, so it'll be like, submit an invasive species plan.
In about a month, you'll know exactly where it all is.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll come up with
we'll
something.
discuss that further,
Okay.
sure.
We can all meet with John, the site, where we bring a shovel, and we'll.
And
we'll go
Roundup, apparently.
We don't need Roundup, we want to just remove the whole thing, get it out of there. Instead of
Understood.
using, we don't want to,
It's
we're not
nasty.
recommending the Roundup in this district.
Understood.
No, so that's not preferred. So we're going to take a short break,
Sure.
5, and we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
So I mean, that might be a problem if we need that to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I feel like,
on this side.
I feel like you've asked me that question like 4 or 7 times now.
Oh, I know
But I did it.
We have not had that discussion.
It's bad.
When again? 1430.
Ken, did I, excuse me, did I
You're
answer
right.
your questions, did I answer your questions
Absolutely.
during Bassett Lane?
Hey, how's it
Okay.
going?
I wouldn't have let it go on if
What
you
are we
didn't.
gonna do?
All right, no,
I'm not shy, and you know that.
no, I know,
guess so.
sometimes I get a little
She gave us a year.
off guard, so.
They're disappointed in us.
Right.
A lot of people have told me.
Because the town is, I did talk with the TA, and I'm gonna send I'm updating a memo to the trust, but also to
I'm gonna give amount of time.
ZBA, just to outline.
So what happens here is all of a
Try my
sudden,
best,
if someone
but-
else that wants to speak, in public, comment, I'll give you the 5, 6, or whatever you need.
Yeah, so we're
it
here,
does say
so I'll,
No, not a
I'm planning
problem.
on, I was actually gonna do,
So improvements
got here
can be
early
made.
because I didn't know
But,
about the bridges.
VHB did say that they would do
Before
that,
5,
and the deed.
and I was gonna do the
Thank you,
decision
Brian,
that you
for,
gave.
if you don't mind, you know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'll do it in the morning. Yeah, I'll do it in the morning. But we have, so is, Eleanor gone? Oh, okay. All right, because I have a litigation thing I need her to do. The 20th is when?
2 weeks.
Okay, all right, so that's good. Oh, that's good, because the pretrial's next week, so I'll get it to her.
What case is that for?
For, you know the McCourt case, Braddock Lane?
Oh, 34 Braddock?
Yeah, it's back, you know, so
Yeah, the attorney was in.
yeah, Bill Henchy.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to revise the parking, which he could clearly do because it's not part of the special permit.
She won't.
No, she will.
Oh, she
just
will?
She will. She
Okay.
just didn't know how to write it, so I told her I would write it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
no, it's fine. And she was gonna send me the special permit, because it doesn't have anything to do with parking, so. And then that might get him, I don't, it's never gonna end, because it's a neighbor
Yeah.
dispute, so it's never gonna end, but. Deleuze pit.
Oh, did Jen send
Yeah,
that to
she
you?
sent that to me. I said I'll do that tomorrow. I don't know who's gonna sign it. And she won't.
That's what she told me today. But also, this pit's been around probably since the 80s.
So this-
So I'm like, I don't even know.
We had litigation with this pit back in 2016.
I think that was a different pit.
Oh, was it?
I think
Okay.
that was one by Jay-Z Drive.
Yeah, it was. That was Jay-Z
This-
Drive.
this
This is
one's
different?
Right down the road from here, it's off
Oh.
Bassett's Lane.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't found any records that the town has ever tried to take action on it before.
Okay.
From Google Images, and just from people's knowledge, it's been
Yeah.
here since the 80s, but used mostly for like, I guess at one, maybe they were mining at one point, but landscaping.
Oh, they're just,
Dumping
they're
fill.
using it as storage. Like,
Yeah, but now they have like appliances and trailers and, storage containers and boats and demo debris and stuff like that. from our record, they don't, I haven't found that the town's on the And the other part of it is, I don't know, I talked to Carly, it may be an error in the assessing records, but one of the parcels is like an owner's unknown situation.
Oh, I hate those.
Maybe,
We
but
have so many
Carly
of those
thought
here.
she found a deed that resolved that, maybe it's just an assessing error.
So the zoning violation, oh, dumping and storage of areas, okay. Okay. I'll take a look at it, I just don't know Jen's, she asked me to review the letter, and then the second question was can Jay sign it, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta, so,
I don't know that the complainant is.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't do that. Yeah, it's impossible. All right, I'll take a look at it, but I just don't know. So the building, the zoning bylaw says that the building.
I can go the night before.
And then, what do they do?
Oh, Tom was coming in to issue building permits, and our building inspector would issue permits. So, but.
I don't know. I gotta.
But a lot of times, like, I want to eat. I
And I'll talk to Jay.
I got a 2-hour later with my breakfast one time. I can't.
So maybe just
It's like, who the hell is he?
It's just another thing I'll.
What I used to like is enjoy.
Spare time. I know, that's
I won't say it was like a small amount of satisfaction, but it was.
Yeah, is he sleeping? Yeah.
It's too distracting for
And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm judging a book by its cover. But, yeah, no, I actually, well, it seems like he, the last few years, I still, that is cool.
Oh, man. What's that? It's just yeah, which, I don't know. It's good thing. Prevented, no?
Because you can't, same thing.
You're, what?
I think we should come back, but, because we do think that.
Yeah, if this,
For
if it's a
specific,
goal,
yeah,
if
right.
the goal is to remove
Right, right.
invasives, then that's the way to do
Yeah,
it.
it used to be good. My daughter, when she was in college, I would get called, like, hey, Dad, how's the Marriott balance looking like that? You know, and she'd always play, you know, we're going to a concert in Providence. How many rooms?
Oh, that's it. She manipulated you.
Understood.
We're like totally,
Summer shutdown.
right, I can, I'll check my emails
Okay.
occasionally.
Ken?
Is it hot here or is it just?
Got it. Okay.
Okay. He didn't.
Going anywhere cool?
My son's graduating college.
Oh, congrats.
So excited.
That's awesome.
My daughter just moved to South Carolina.
Okay.
Everybody ready? Are you folks all set? Okay, we're back.
So,
No, we're still on. Oh, you're on red, good.
all right.
Okay,
So the landscape and site development conditions suggested, we're okay with number 1. Number 2, we'd like to pause and consider that one. The reason being, we had a quick education on Asian knotweed, and we just need to understand everything a little bit better before we say
Okay.
absolutely yes to that, because that's a response in a careful way, getting rid of Asian knotweed.
Does everybody understand herbicides only versus,
Pesticides.
You mean selective herbicide?
yeah, selective herbicide? Everybody got a handle on that? What a selective herbicide is?
No.
Okay.
Broadleaf versus.
So a selective herbicide would be putting down stuff to kill like crabgrass, okay, or regular dandelions or whatever. A non-selective would be Roundup. That just kills everything.
worse than selective.
Roundup is, it's not selective, anything that's growing goes away.
Okay.
Okay. So a selective herbicide is weed control, making a nice lawn, getting rid of dandelions, that kind of thing.
And why is it in there?
Because they want to get rid of dandelions. Okay, I mean, I just said, I'm just suggesting if they want to use herbicides, they can use selective only, because that just kills the normal lawn-type weeds, as opposed to using Roundup, which is that is not a selective herbicide, because it goes after anything living, growing, it kills.
It-
Okay. All right, so anyways,
That's
that's,
another
Well,
process
these-
question.
but goodwill, I mean, how do you force any of this stuff? I mean, that's gonna be a goodwill situation. I mean, it's just-
Number 1, though, given the proceedings at town meeting this week, may need to be modified.
Not apparently. Amy?
No, they filed their application before town meeting, so they're
Thank
not
goodness.
subject to anything, and it's a general bylaw that will not be in effect until the Attorney General approves it, and it's also seeking, seeking legislation, so that's not gonna happen for quite a while.
Number 3?
If we could go back to number 2, we could suggest that a condition would be to use non-selective herbicides in the treatment of invasives only.
I guess I'm not even sure why you have to differentiate.
I think you should
Either
come
they
back
use
with
them
a
or they don't.
proposal, because I think you're gonna find that the
We
weed
may.
that's there cannot be killed with a
Okay.
selective herbicide.
Okay.
All right,
Let's-
so
So,
for invasives only, okay.
Okay,
And we will come back
There you go. Good.
with some more thought.
okay, all right.
Okay. No use of rodenticides, agree to that. Initiative to use Cape Cod native plants and low water turf, that's part of our site plan already. So I don't really think it needs to be a condition because it is in the site plan, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, so that goes away.
Even low-water turf is part of your site plan?
I believe so.
No, I don't think so.
So let's
Okay.
just put it in a condition, so you
Sure.
don't have to change your
Okay.
site plan.
All right. Okay. Reduce use of sprinkler systems, scheduled primarily during planting periods. That's kind of a broad condition.
Just giving you flexibility, and the idea is not, they're not
That's fine.
going off every 3 days for
Sure.
an hour and a half.
Okay.
but-
well, didn't you guys plan to abandon them after the plantings
After
established
they're,
themselves?
For
after they're
irrigation,
established.
yes.
Yeah, you discussed that, so I'm just letting you,
But we weren't gonna make them do that.
I'm telling you, you can put the, my suggestion is, you can put the sprinkler systems in, but,
We did.
use them selectively.
No.
Oh, two.
We'll accept it. Okay, number 6, earthwork analysis summary as recommended by VHB, we'll accept that.
Yep.
ED-ready spaces per VHB demonstrate compliance with 521 CMR and ADA accessibility requirements. We'll agree to that.
No, we didn't.
So, on number 2, I guess I'm just struggling, what's the point of number 2? An herbicide's an herbicide, either they use them or they don't. What happens if you want to spray the weeds in the flower bed?
That's a selective herbicide.
If it's a piece of grass, it's not.
Then they actually, they have to, on this idea, they'd have to get out there with a trowel and take it out. Not gonna happen. I mean, I'm just
I can't.
suggesting that we
I-
aren't using a regular use of Roundup, but, you know,
But Roundup-
I'm just one voice.
Again, it's, yeah, I don't,
Chris,
Roundup's no.
Chris, specifically, are you suggesting we don't have a condition about herbicide?
Correct. Actually, there are others that are much worse than Roundup.
So, in POV 4, we had no rodenticides or pesticides shall be used or permitted to be used anywhere outside on the property.
Why don't we just take it right out of that?
Okay.
That's right.
I'm fine.
Let's use
That's
that
for
one.
bugs.
Right, but, the only reason I'm bringing that up is because, do you remember with POV 4, they wanted to make sure it was outside only because they want to use, in case they need to
Well,
use it
that was for rodenticides.
Right, so should we change that one to this?
But,
outside
so we
only.
didn't address herbicides in PO?
I can't, I
Okay,
searched
all
for
right. Just,
herbicides and I don't have it.
Yeah, is that something we should do? I mean, they could use them inside, just not outside?
Yeah, we should change that because, the argument at POV 4 was that you want to be able to
Just in case. you have it.
rats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the change to that. I was,
I'm not advocating
I
for
was-
killing.
I was
anybody.
mainly,
Rats.
I was
Not
mainly
advocating
referring
killing
to
anything.
the dumpsters and not
About
being that
mice.
bait outside the dumpsters. That was a
That's not
concern.
my job.
That was a discussion at POV,
Yeah,
was
was-
not having
yeah.
those type of poisons thrown all over the dumpsters.
So we're gonna mirror POV. We'll give that to you on this.
Okay,
Okay.
that'd be helpful. All right. So we talked about number 8 already, conceptual utility plan on how Penrose development will connect with future municipal sewer system.
Yeah, before we go off now, at this point, I just want, we're on the site plan, so, as a matter of fact, we could, why don't we, we'll complete this, and then we'll go on to the next phase, what I want to talk about.
Okay.
So, you're gonna do conceptual plan on the, on municipal sewer system, that was reviewed, so we're all set there.
Right.
And that's, on 9, you've agreed the fact of giving them the right-of-way of using, tying into your piping that's gonna go to Queen Anne Road.
I interpreted this as saying the opposite, right? This is an easement on the northern property.
Yeah, all right, well, what I was trying to accomplish on this was that for the northern property, it may be that when Affordable Trust develops the northern property, they may choose to tie in the sewers, the septic systems of all these houses, whatever, and then pipe that, which would probably be the only location, is through your property to Queen Anne Road. Now, who knows what's gonna be happening in 2050? There could in fact be sewer on Pleasant Lake Avenue.
Right.
But originally, the idea was conceptually to provide them an easement to take their piping down the same area
Understood.
to hook up to the northern property. So that was the suggestion here.
Okay.
And if I could, also, we have a gentleman from the Affordable Trust is here, if he wants to comment about that as well. You're good to go, okay.
Before we discuss Attorney Rose,
I think conceptually it's okay. Yeah. We should discuss it further, but
Yeah, I think we need to discuss this a bit further. I think
Okay.
conceptually, we're okay with this.
Attorney
but-
Rose, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
As the lessee of the property,
Mhm.
I don't think you can give an easement. I think it has to go, isn't the owner of the property
Right.
would provide an easement?
You have to, I mean, you have to have an ownership right, and I don't think a lessee can give an easement to,
I agree.
but you can reach an agreement in another way to,
Just,
Right.
yeah. And that's why I use the word agreement instead of an
Right.
easement, because you
It would
can't give an
be-
easement.
right. It would be going back, I think, to the lease agreement to carve that in.
Just give it some thought, I'm just trying to think,
That's what I think. it
I'm just
would
trying to
be.
think ahead to 2050.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, do you know what we're trying to accomplish? And do you have
No,
any
I
suggestions?
don't, actually.
All
I was
right, so
just
the
gonna ask.
northern property,
Yep.
the other side of Bassett Lane, they're gonna put in whatever development may go in there. And in 2050, whatever, they may decide at that point to the town to have everyone who's got septic systems here tie in, because it is a six-pond district area, to tie into the sewer system that's gonna be on Queen Anne Road at that time. And at this point, just looking for consideration, that we look at this plan on what land area is gonna be needed for piping to go from the upper property, north property, to get to Queen Anne Road. It's gonna have to be going through this development.
It's the only way to get there.
Right. It's only way to Queen Anne's through this.
Assuming the only connection is on Queen Anne Road, the only way to get there is through this site.
Right. It may in fact at that time be a sewer system on Pleasant Lake, who knows?
Right, so, as you can see from my note, this can only be done if they agree to it.
Correct, I understand that. This is, I'm raising the argument in the discussion.
Right.
Okay.
We will talk to the Affordable Housing Trust further.
Okay.
I think that 8, the conceptual utility plan, I think considering that the town is involving GHD, I think that that's fine,
Yes.
because that, you're just asking them to, look into possible hookups.
And GHD getting involved with that
9, you're-
situation as well.
And 9, you're getting into a separate property.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
But we're still talking, right now, we're just talking about their property. Later on, Affordable Trust can figure out how they're gonna get to that piping.
Right, but that's not their problem.
I understand that, but I'm looking for them to be willing, and, to provide that access, okay? And it is up to them, their goodwill.
We can't have them agree to something like that right now?
No.
No.
Okay.
So are you okay with 8, or are you
We're okay
considering
with
8
8.
also? You're okay with 8?
Yes, we're doing
So
that
you're
now.
considering 9?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so what we're saying here is we have to eliminate 9. Is that what you're saying?
No,
They're
they're
talking about it.
They're gonna
considering
talk about it,
They'll get
okay.
back to us next time.
Right.
And that's just goodwill
Understood.
to the
Right.
town. It has nothing to do with
Conceptually,
Alright,
it seems
alright,
okay,
a
but we'll
hard-
discuss.
a hard, condition.
And maybe that's as simple as that. Conceptually, yes, we're gonna do this.
But they just gotta figure the
I'll defer
land
to
out.
council on that.
Right, I think it's just like kind of a wide open, it's a blank slate.
That's the
and it's
that's the
just
reason I was a
little-
chemist and I wasn't
Right.
a lawyer, so
Right,
do it.
so we just need to limit the exposure
I was
there.
limited by the Mother Nature laws, not limited by those laws.
So after that, after 9, just a discussion that I made arrangements for, for the town administrator, to GHD involved, and help you guys with that.
Okay, number 10. I think that the language suggested by Amy would work. Because the issue here is, there are various places for a bus stop on site, but we really have to coordinate with the school district.
Right.
And we can't do that until it's built.
In particular, there's no sidewalk, the kids can't get to Queen Anne Road. So it's gotta come up.
My only question on that was, do you have enough area to put in the covered waiting area without having to get rid of parking or anything like that?
If it were to take place at the clubhouse, you already have a covered area
Okay.
there provided.
Okay, so that's fine.
I think you discussed that the last meeting,
Yeah.
where the mailboxes are and so forth.
That's right.
Okay.
But there's no promising that's where the school district will
Yeah.
agree to the space. Yeah.
So is there going to be a condition relative to a bus stop?
No.
So it says if, the condition that I suggested was, if previously approved by the school department, a school bus stop with a covered waiting area shall be installed and shown on the site plans adjacent to the community center. Said location may be moved by the school department, and then in any event, any school bus stop within the project site notwithstanding the location shall include a covered waiting area. Do you wanna
Because
take
if-
out the last portion about the covered waiting area? So the school department, they can come in at any time and change the bus stop. So if the school department says you can put your bus stop here, and then in 2 years, they either redistrict or lose buses, or they decide that they don't like it there, they wanna put it somewhere else, they can just do that. They have no,
Right.
they have no power over that. So,
To the extent possible.
Well, it
That's-
says- it
let's
says
do
if a-
that.
If previously approved, at this point, they haven't approved, they told us it's too far out, they won't approve it because they don't know their routes, bus routes.
Right, but they, at the time, they said that basically this is you know,
Right,
more than likely gonna happen, and it was fine with them.
right.
We'll work it out then.
So we believe it'll be next to the community center. That seems like the best place, but we can't promise it's going to
Right.
be next.
So do you want me to, redraft it coming from the angle that they
Subject to.
cannot get, that the school department won't agree to anything before we close this hearing, right?
That is correct.
Okay, I'll
Right.
change that, then I'll change it,
Yeah, that's gotta be changed.
okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
DBH requested additional test pit.
We agree,
We can do that.
Okay.
and we agreed number 12.
8, 9, and 10 a duplicate,
Yes,
the copy and paste.
yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's a copy and paste error. Ken, I actually did change it already. The applicant shall work with the school department to identify a safe location for the school bus stop and ensure that the planned stop location has adequate sight lines. Details of the specific location and any accommodations shall be included in the final plans and reviewed by the school department and applicable public safety personnel. So by the time you do your final plans, you will know.
Yeah.
Okay,
The only thing that's
Agreed.
not in that sentence is covered, right?
correct. Because I wasn't sure if it would take away parking spots.
I'm not sure if that was something people felt strongly about, that it be covered.
Well, school department doesn't require covered stops, but just.
Does or does not?
Does not, I don't believe. I mean, they stop all over the place, so they don't require it. But just thinking about, you know, again, your ability is, as you want to provide convenience for your
We'd
residents.
like to, yes.
Okay? And you already have a covered area where the mailboxes are, so it's not like you may have to extend the roof another 2 feet, but other than that, it should be good to go.
Agreed. Coverage is not.
Yeah. Okay.
One.
Let's not put covered in,
So we're on,
just leave it.
Okay,
Okay, leave
so
it.
we're good to go onto a Harwich Health Code?
yes.
Yep.
And so this is just a condition that we have to, or, a waiver that we have to request because the flow is for 90 bedrooms.
Sure.
It's over 2,000
Are we
gallons a day.
are we outside of site plan?
We're on.
Or is this still part of site plan?
We're outside of
Health
site plan,
code.
yeah.
Oh, we're gonna, I wanna finish this, all the waivers up, and then we'll go to the next section. Okay?
You were gonna provide a summary on the septic, 1 or 2 pages.
Did, and I may have it, I have it here, I may have enough copies for all of you, we submitted it,
Yeah.
just very
If
recently.
you could give one to Rachel, and she can get it, she can distribute it to
Yeah.
us at another time.
That's important, I mean, we're limiting the amount of nitrogen and fertilizer, and
Right.
this could be a huge source of nitrogen. So I think it's important.
And we did the calculations, and one of the things that you wanted to know was
Right.
that was about the 5 bedrooms, because on the site, you could possibly build 5 bedrooms by right, or sorry, 5
Housing units.
homes by right, and so we
Right.
did those calculations. And, you know, they vary because you can have a certain number of bedrooms in a house or not,
Mhm.
but our calculations showed that nitrogen was less for this development than the 5 homes that we spec.
Okay, and but I'll be able to get
You'll
that.
be able to get that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you have any
If-
questions
If
about
that's the
it.
case, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, no,
Best case, I guess, in this situation.
And what's true, I mean, you're comparing lots of different numbers.
Oh, yeah,
And like
yeah.
whether something's a real, or whether it's from the Cape Cod Commission in 1990 or this or that. But what you can say is that what they're providing is best available technology, provisional best available technology for nitrogen reducing
Right.
systems. And it's going to be monitored, you know, it's much better than something that's
It
20 or 30
may not even
years
be
old.
pumped regularly.
Correct. Mhm.
Right.
Okay. C is the Cape Cod Commission waiver, because if this weren't affordable housing, we have 30 or more units, and
yeah, we don't need, you're right, that's a waiver,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I just want to clarify, that means the Cape Cod Commission has no authority, it's ours?
Has no authority. The Cape Cod Commission, and on a 40B, act as if it's a department of the town, just like the Conservation Department or the Health Department, whatever.
I mean, they
That's-
give different guidance, because they're looking at how the impact is regionally in their letter, and so they talk about the 6 funds district, they talk about what needs to be done, which is providing this kind of IA system. It's not saying no development can happen in the Six Ponds District, but if it's a 40B, it needs to be carefully done, and we are.
Just for a note, it is on the website, the Cape Cod Commission's letter, and I think overall, what we're accomplishing here as a board addresses, I think, all the concerns of the Cape Cod Commission. So there's nothing on this waiver that is stepping aside on the advice of Cape Cod Commission.
I agree.
It's being maintained.
Correct.
So their wishes have become, basically are being considered, by what we're accomplishing here.
Right.
All right, so this is a repeat. I didn't notice, and I did this, the lighting standards that you've asked
Yeah.
included.
All right.
So that, forget about that one.
Okay.
And then,
The last one is the affordability schedule, and I know that we've just gotten recent comments from Amy, and we've, over the past couple of weeks, since April 28th, Counsel for Penrose, who deals with after the permitting, getting this financed, has talked with both Amy and Paul and myself. And so we feel like that this is a conversation that's pretty positive going forward, but we're not where we're ready to present a potential condition to you yet. But I'd like to work with you, Amy, and keep getting this a little bit
so
more.
are you looking for something different than perpetuity?
So if you look on my notes on this, they're proposing generally, and we don't have a condition yet, but they're proposing that 25% of the units will be restricted in perpetuity, because that's what's required. So you have to kind of do the math. So they have 8 units that are 30% AMI, 34 units that are 60%, and 9 units that are 80. And then they have 9 units that are basically market rate. So they need 15 of those units are going to be restricted in perpetuity. So it will be the 9 that are below 80% AMI, and then 6 others. So we will have 15 units that are going to be protected in perpetuity. The others are going to be protected with a affordability restriction that is it's terminable by a senior lender only upon foreclosure. And we have been told, and I did confirm, that there's never been a foreclosure in the past 40 years of this program that they
Sure.
use. So because they're going above and beyond the affordability here, it's something for the board to consider.
And I can provide the board, the way it was explained is that would you like to do it?
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
go ahead.
So I think our goal is to finance this at these affordability levels. The 40B requirement is the 25% at 80% of AMI. And through the state, there will be affordable housing restriction that they will be placing on the property for all the units at the different AMI levels. But typically in a 40B permit, in our experience, the perpetuity requirement placed by the comp permit, we're asking to be at the 25%, at 80%. Our goal is to make sure that when we get to the financing stage with our lenders and investors, I think we talked about this at one of the first hearings, is that we have the flexibility to make sure that they can get to the valuation of the property from their perspective, and what restrictions are placed on the property impacts their valuation. The permanent lender and the construction lender and our investor all need to be able to put on paper certain, they do the math based on what the restrictions are in place. And that's why we're asking for, or I guess we're requesting that the
the board restrict this based on what is required in 40B, and all the other kind of affordability restrictions are also in our LDA with the trust, and this will ultimately be regulated by the state agency when we finance the project.
So you said that 25% at 80%, but you can't do that because you only have 9 units at 80%.
This is 80% or less.
So the 30%
That's what-
units
You're below.
and the 60% units, all of those
you are
are
gonna have-
below 80, so all those count.
15 of
Also.
those, 40, 51.
Yeah.
Right.
And we
There's
can
9 that
provide
are
some
not, there's
additional.
9 market.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, only 15 of the 41 that are below 80%, 80 or below.
Yes, so there's 51 units that are affordable, and then there's 9 that are market.
Right.
The gist that I got from the discussions with the experts on this was that if you have this comprehensive permit restriction on all of the units being affordable, it limits what Penrose can receive from its primary lenders. They're going to lend less, and they're going to have to go out and try to find monies other places. And it hamstrings the financing of the project.
And then the other thing that is, that's different about this project is that they have a land development agreement with the Affordable Housing Trust that these units are required. This affordability is required in the LDA, so they're required to have 30, they're required to have 30, 60, and 80% affordability.
At these levels, as the original levels.
But not for the term of the lease.
The term of lease is 90, 100 years, 90.
I know.
Yeah, so
99
it's different than the lease, it's the land
Pretty much
development
in
agreement.
perpetuity.
So the land development agreement, help me understand, the land development agreement requires everything 80 or below to be affordable. So in theory, that's not to perpetuity, but it would be for 99 years.
I don't think so. I don't think the land development agreement requires it to be, does it? Because the land development agreement would be, they would allow for it to be terminable on foreclosure by a primary lender, right?
So,
We'd have to get that confirmed.
Okay.
But that is, so the difference is that they have a requirement from us, but they also have so they have a requirement from us, they're then gonna have an affordable housing restriction put on it by their subsidizing agency, and they have it under the land development agreement.
But they might be different time periods. That's what I'm trying to reconcile with all this. POV 4, didn't we say into perpetuity for
Yes, we
all of the
did.
units?
they had made the exact same argument.
We
here
did,
before.
but they didn't have a land development agreement.
Right, so then, all that means is we have more leverage over this development in the
actually
future,
less.
right? With the land development
Yes,
agreement.
yes, the town does, yes.
The
correct,
town does.
Correct.
I
Yeah,
thought I
not we,
checked
the
and
town.
I don't think
Yeah,
it was.
sorry, yeah.
But if I can understand this a little better, though, so what you're saying is they will only become in perpetuity. That'll only change if you're foreclosed.
For the 75% of the units that are not
Correct.
perpetual.
Even if you foreclose, 15 units will remain,
Yes,
Correct.
that will
Correct.
remain
no
regardless.
matter
Correct.
what,
Yes.
even
No
under
matter what.
So this will only go into effect if you are foreclosed on.
Right, and that never
This-
happens. And that hasn't ever happened.
Right, and that, you'd hope not, right? I mean, you wouldn't expect it.
And
So
there's no
up
way,
fr-
I'm sorry.
No, I just went up front. In essence, that's the only difference between what we did with POB 4 is that phrase where you can change it if you're foreclosed on.
And I think it will help, I can bring a chart.
Because they had made the exact same argument with the lenders and the whole thing. They're very compelling, but we held firm, based because this is pretty much a standard. Why should we change it?
It's standard for 40B projects for the perpetuity for the 25% at 8%.
Yeah.
It's,
I think our town council would disagree with you. In that we've said, you both and Paul have weighed in and said perpetuity has been standard, not just for the 25%.
I have weighed in on that. I don't think Paul has.
I have not.
'Cause Paul and I don't agree on that.
So I have had experience with a project where I represented a board and included a condition in a decision that I thought was pretty anodyne, not particularly offensive,
dealing with the fact that the applicant had proposed a project that was 100% affordable. So I noted in the decision, the applicant shall be required to have 25% of the units affordable at 80% area median income, but the applicant has proposed, and the board accepts, that 100% of the units will be affordable.
Into perpetuity.
In perpetuity. The applicant actually appealed that decision based upon a number of other conditions that were onerous. But in particular, that condition, the Housing Appeals Committee struck and said it infringes upon the jurisdiction of the subsidizing agency, because the affordability issue is within the exclusive jurisdiction of the subsidizing agency. So as long as they're meeting the 25% at 80%, they are compliant with the requirements of the program, and the board can't impose a condition that is more excessive than that, despite the fact that the applicant proposed it.
So
I don't agree.
based on that.
I didn't agree with that decision either, but that's.
Well, that was the housing board made that decision.
the Housing
So
Appeals
based on that history, that precedent, if POV 4 goes with that exact same argument, it's likely to go to the 25%.
They would have to take an appeal to the
Based,
Housing Appeals
based on,
Committee.
if they appealed it, right.
Correct.
They did.
But the
It's passed
decision's past the appeal process.
It's past the appeal
No,
process.
I'm not saying whether they did or not, I have no idea, but they could have done that, right? As these folks could.
As I recall, and not to continue this discussion longer, but at one of your first meetings, the argument was being made by the applicant regarding not going perpetuity for your flexibility when you went for refinancing. And now I'm hearing, and that's why you want to be able to, not have it in there, you needed it to, kind of refinancing to not have that thing. Are we now hearing now that the agreement is that it only gets adjusted if you went to bankruptcy? And it has nothing to foreclosure, and has foreclosure. So refinancing will not have an impact regarding affordability.
Refinancing would not impact the affordability.
Okay, all right, just wanted to check
Because
that.
whatever restrictions are placed by the affordable housing restriction placed by the state stays in place unless we pay the state off, which would not be
Smart.
possible, really.
So if I could, let me summarize, see if I can
Please,
get some of this
okay.
right. Even though 25% of 51 units isn't 15, Penrose is proposing.
No,
that-
it's 25% of 60.
Excuse me?
It's 25% of 60.
25% of the total number of units.
Total number is 60, so it's 15
Of the
units.
total numbers, got it, okay. But you're suggesting, the way I'm seeing this written right now, is that 51 of the 62 would be into perpetuity unless you went through the foreclosure process.
But still 15 of those wouldn't even be subject to be.
Even after the foreclosure
Correct.
process.
Correct.
Right, okay, but in event that you do not get foreclosed upon, we have got 51 protected into perpetuity unless
Well,
we're in.
I guess our request is that that be regulated by the affordable housing restriction that's placed by the state, which we will need to get placed on the property because that's how we get these projects financed, and that it's not be regulated by the comp permit. I think, yeah, that's the.
That's your request.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we
Well-
have to do that. I think we can make a condition.
That incorporates their language on foreclosure.
Exactly.
It's kind of
Okay.
it's a mix of the two. You want it to be not in there, and we'd like to see 100% all the time forever. So that's kind of a compromise.
And the town lease is 100% forever.
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
The land agreement.
Well, we
we
also
did.
don't
Yeah.
have the property,
We
for
just
it's
know that-
Right, it's a
a 99-year lease.
Development
Release.
agreement. I haven't been given a copy of that.
Oh, oh, you haven't, they were keeping you in the dark?
No, I didn't ask for it. No.
So I think Jacob Taylor, representing Penrose, has sent Amy some proposed language
he
just
did.
recently.
He did. He sent me
And
a,
so-
re- he sent me a,
That's in the original material.
he did send me a sample condition, and I didn't understand it until just now when you said that you don't want it in the condition, you just want it in the affordable housing restriction. So I'll take his, I didn't put his condition in here because that's up to the board to decide if they want to do this or
Understood.
not. So I can draft a condition that says exactly what Ken just said, which is 25% remains forever in perpetuity, and then the other remains in perpetuity unless there's a foreclosure by a primary lender. Senior lender, sorry.
Okay, we look forward to seeing the language, and
Okay.
we can keep talking.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay,
That was easy.
I think we're, at this moment, we've got the waivers and draft waivers and conditions squared away. I now want to go back to, I think it was part of the handouts, I think you all have it, my May 7th, 2026 original memo, and not included in this report, guys, that Amy has her response to, and is the,
Brian, this one?
Like, which
yeah,
one?
we're on that one.
Right one.
Okay. All right, so,
Is it the one that starts discussion outline?
yes, correct.
Okay, great.
Okay. So we've already gone through 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
All right, so basically, 1 and 4 on this particular list here are really on the combined the same thing.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the fact that there's a lack of parking associated with building 14. And there's also a lack of parking associated with building 9, which I didn't realize until I came here tonight. And
There's parking in
No,
front of
it's
9.
building 6.
6.
I'm sorry, building 6, excuse me, I read it wrong. So, yes, building 6 does not have parking, and I didn't realize that prior to tonight. But, yeah, building 14 does not have any parking, and that's a large building with 8 units. All right, and so I'm just gonna read this, my statement on additional memo that I sent to Amy and Paul on May 4th. And of course, Amy did reply to that with some comments, but, so the main thing here is that I'm gonna say that the ZBA can only act if conditions regarding on the parking situation, this is what I'm concerned about, where the parking is located. In my understanding, this is from talking to Christine and everybody else and so forth, that we can't regulate your parking locations, all right? Now, one request I do have, in a condition that I'd like to offer up is the fact that for the June 11th meeting, that you come back with a site plan that allocates one assigned, I'm not saying you have to do it as far as, when we get, all gets done, but I want to see a site plan, and hopefully my board agrees, showing one designated spot for every apartment and where that's going to be. So,
Make sure you're saying that they would paint unit number 32, and that's their spot?
right, but right now, I just want to see it conceptually on a site plan, because I'm having trouble with accessibility. And the main thing here is, and it comes down to, is that people who live in Building 8, there is no parking associated with it.
Building 14?
I mean, Building 14, which has 8 units. Thank you. There is no associated parking with this building. So they're going to be parking now in front of 13 or 12, or they're going to be parking in front of 1. Now, for one thing, and this isn't necessarily, and I believe it does move into safety issues, we'll discuss this, the fact that we're creating a situation here that's going to create a lot of tensions on the site. People going, let me speak, and, you have your turn. So I'm pulling my soapbox out, and I'm the only one talking, okay, at the moment, all right? So people are going to be parking in front of other people's buildings. Having my own experience, and I ran a condominium association with 144 units, and I understand how people get upset on parking issues and tensions. And these tensions can flare up. And I believe that we're setting the stage here for lack of sufficient parking for Building 14 particularly, where now we're going to create, tensions in the rest of the development. When people are parking in Building 14, they're parking in front of other buildings, whom those people feel like, hey, this is my building, you shouldn't be parking here. And I think we're creating that issue for the lack of, lack of parking for building 14. And I think that's going to cause some problems. Now, the other issue is, how far away are these people gonna have to park in order to get access to this building? We're setting a situation here up where you're coming home with your groceries, you got 4 or 5 bags, and you're 150 feet away from your building. I don't think that makes for a convenient community, when you're that far away from your building to bring in your groceries, or your kids, or whatever. Or if you're a person who has a handicap parking that is not ADA, and they really can't walk that far, particularly in bad weather. That's a safety issue. And this is a concern I have on this. So my memo here I wrote here, granted, the ZBA can act only if conditions are justified, reasonable, and doesn't make the project uneconomical. I recognize that. But at what point can the ZBA act upon practicality and safety? My question is the latitude of the Harwich Board of Appeals to ensure that this development is consistent with local needs for safety and neighborhood context of this proposed development. I am confident the Harwich Planning Board would never approve an apartment building that lacked contiguous, reasonable, accessible parking, all right? Parking requirements would be tied to legitimate local concerns. I expect requiring contiguous parking per building is not inherently standard in 40B practice. To justify it, from my understanding, the Board of Appeals must need evidence such as fire access, emergency response concerns, pedestrian safety issues, and site topography or distance concerns of residents. I think we're creating a situation, we have no problem with emergency response, but I think we're creating a situation where there may be distance concerns for residents, particularly if they're senior citizens living in Building 14. So, what are the Board of Appeals options to require safe and reasonable proximity for parking for all buildings, and specifically 14, which is, again, is allocated no contiguous spaces. So, basically, I just want to consider perceived ownership and fairness. Even when spaces are technically shared, residents often assume parking nearest the building is theirs. If they regularly park farther away while others park closer, it can feel inequitable and lead to disputes. I think we're setting the situation up for that. Convenience and daily friction due to distance matters, especially in bad weather at night, or for older residents or families with children. Repeated inconveniences builds frustration, which can spill into confrontations. Again, a safety issue. Accessibility and safety concerns. Lack of nearby parking can raise legitimate issues around accessibility, needs for handicapped residents. And again, you don't have to be in a wheelchair to be handicapped. And if this handicapped person is parking 150 feet or more away, that's going to be a problem. And they can't necessarily, that is going to be a problem. And then unclear rules of enforcement. Where there are no assigned spaces, no signage, and formal claims will develop, and that's an environment where neighbors to neighbors conflict will begin. I would like to have the Harwich Affordable Trust and Penrose should consider how to reimagine the site plan to achieve a balanced and adequate distribution of spaces across buildings, and if needed, expand the site and acreage to be leased to Penrose. I believe the lack of adequate and accessible parking for all residents is clearly tied to site and resident safety, and in part of this conversation we must have, and we determine the validity of parking waivers requests from applicants. So basically, as one step, perhaps to calm my fears or concerns regarding accessibility, I'm just suggesting conceptually start off with, I'd like to see what it looks like if you assign one parking space per apartment and where all these things are going to be. And let's take a look at it. That might resolve my concerns, but right now I have them, okay? So I'm going to retire my soapbox, and we can
Let me
go from here.
consult my people.
Okay.
Who would like to
I think if you
respond?
can, if I could just add to it, just, and if you had, through your site plan back up there, that stretch from building 14 to building 11,
Mhm.
you have 25 parking spaces and 24 units, and none of them are in front of 14. So the concern is that that side, that many of the units there is going to force people to then curl around elsewhere in the development, park in front of other units and stuff. That's the tightest. There's some other areas like Building 5 and 6, there's 7 units and only 8 parking spaces in front of it. And it's adjacent to Building 6 that has no parking spaces in front of it, so, but I think most of it is in that east side of the property where there's only one spare space, assuming one assigned spot per person, so they're gonna be crossing the road, which they would do anyways to go to the community center and everything, but just, the feeling is that
Now,
if you assumed
that
everybody in
we've
Building
responded.
14 got home first,
Mhm.
they're gonna take all those spots,
Right.
and it's just gonna cascade around.
I think a couple of things, and then please fill in.
if I could, just one thing. I feel that Penrose, given the land you've been given, has done a wonderful job with the site plan you've done, given the land you've been given. And part of it is, if you can reimagine the site so you can improve the parking for Building 14, that'd be great. The other alternative is, what happens, again, I think the comment was made by, perhaps a board member, but by the person in the audience at the last meeting, guys, you got 11 acres up here, let's do the first development right. And I'm concerned that we're not doing it right, given the situation of parking as it is evident with Building 14. So I'm done with that.
Right. Well, to back up, the idea of providing a project with this amount of density on this particular site has been under consideration in Harwich for a long time. I've printed out the RFP, which
Right, no, I agree.
literally says approximately 6 acres of land, no more than 90 bedrooms. And that's within the idea of what we're
Wait a
presenting.
minute, I think, we ended up with 5 acres, right?
5.8.
It's
It's 5.8?
6.
Okay. Okay, I'm
Right,
sorry,
it's-
thank you.
Right, it's close.
How many bedrooms do you have?
We have 90.
90,
Yeah.
And so, where we've been able to accommodate the concerns about parking, we have done so with, we talked about the off-site parking. Most 40Bs do not have this much parking. We do here. In terms of how the parking is managed, and I hear that there could be potential problems on the site, but that doesn't consider how Penrose manages things. If there's someone who has physical difficulty that's long-term or even short-term, there is a manager there who can identify space and let that person have that particular space for a period of time. I think in terms of expectations, they're going to be leasing to people, having conversations with people. And so if people, the expectations for how parking's going to work on this site and whether people can always stick a flag in and claim the parking space in front of their unit, that's something that can be handled as people interact before they decide to lease in this area.
So I think really appreciate the board thinking from the perspective of the residents. And no one has it more at stake to make sure the residents are happy and harmonious than our property manager, because they're going to be the ones working with people day to day. And our practice across vast majority of our developments is to not assign parking, because we've seen that it's a much more efficient use of spaces. And Jeff, who's here, can definitely speak to why not having assigned parking allows there to be more, like someone's at work and they're not utilizing their space. There's no reason why someone living in Building 14 can't use that closest spot. And in cases where parking is an issue for residents and having adequate kind of right location parking is an issue for residents and there is conflict, our property manager may choose to assign parking to make sure that everyone has parking where they need to. But I guess at this stage, if not having assigned parking is the more efficient use of the parking spaces, we want to give the property manager that flexibility to manage on the site as they see fit with the residents. We had took measurement of kind of the distance from Building 14 to the parking spaces. It's about 100 feet, and that's probably around 20 seconds, was that? 20 seconds of walking, and we recognize that not having parking directly in front of Building 14 is, ideally, we would have parking right there, but as we talked about with the slope and the challenges with the grade, we can't put parking right in front of there, and we would think that having assigned parking actually makes it much more inefficient. We can't think of all the different kind of permutations that make the most sense, and at this point, leaving that flexibility for the property manager makes the most sense based on our best practice based on the properties that we manage.
At the moment, I'm not suggesting we condition the fact that you assign parking. Right now, given like, as John pointed out, you've got 25 units with 20 spaces for like 4 buildings. It basically, there's gonna be odd man out. And I like just to see conceptually, where you'd put these spaces and how far some of these people would have to walk, to get to their building. And so that may be a guidepost in the future for your property manager to say, okay, here's what a plan might be for you to park in here. But at the moment, I'm trying to grasp how far some people are just gonna have to walk with bundles of groceries, and they're 70 years old, or whatever they might be, or they got a kid on their arms, and they gotta unload, they got a child, they got groceries, trying to get to Building 14. And even if the answer was 2 spaces somehow for loading and unloading only, okay? I mean, I don't know, but I'm requesting you to reimagine this as best you can, to try to be, let's not just, be more considerate here. And the idea of you just giving us a conceptual plan with parking spaces, so we can look, I can look, maybe nobody else is interested in my board, I know I certainly am, where you're gonna put these, if you had to assign it, where would you assign it? I'm not saying I'm gonna vote or condition to you have to do it, I'm just suggesting, I'd like to see how you guys would work it out,
Okay.
which might be a guidepost to your future manager.
Understood.
I don't understand what that, I understand your viewpoint as far as it's gonna
Yeah.
be a pain in the ass, right? I've lived I spent about 20 years in apartments, I think. So I know exactly and people in Manhattan, millions
sure,
of
I
people
understand.
do this, right? I understand the frustration, and given the site location, they really can't do anything about this, right? Hold on,
I don't know that.
With this site, right? So actually having them assign and assign, I can envision that someone in 14 is gonna have to park over here one day.
And that's.
I know that.
Right, yeah.
So you don't have to put numbers in the sign that.
Well, I'm trying to use that example to see what's the worst-case scenario where people are gonna have to park if you're managing the parking?
But it's pretty straightforward. The problem is they're constrained. The only real solution is for the Harwich Affordable Trust to give them a property so they can expand this thing out.
And if I could, along those lines, with permission,
Yeah, go for it.
to reimagine, to talk about what could happen. If the Affordable Housing Trust were to give you more land, that would be on the northeast corner. If they were willing to do that, you could then move all those buildings up and everybody would have parking. Is that something that Penrose would consider if the Affordable Housing Trust would consider giving you more? In other words, this is really tight, and I think you've acknowledged it's tight. It's the RFP, I get that. You can see the struggles, the challenge that the board is having in that regard. You've created more spots, you found other parking. Candidly, you've addressed the real issues that I had when I said it was a deal stop. But if this were available to you, would you consider moving?
I think we need to not answer that now.
I mean, you and Brandon can't go out in the hall and work this out now?
Now, you gotta wait for
Yes.
another break, you wanna go out and chat, because
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
it's not an easy, I
Well, I
understand, it's
mean-
not an easy solution.
Well, it's
but-
also very costly because they've gone through all of the planning for the lot under the RFP. It's extremely costly to redesign the entire project.
No,
No,
he's
every
just looking,
building's exactly the same size. Nothing has changed in that regard. You have merely moved it north.
I think we have to pause because we can't respond.
Oh, no, I realize that. I want you to, we're just asking, take a look at it, what can be reimagined? You obviously would have to, dial up and talk to the Affordable Trust, but also, again, one part of that is just like to see where all this parking is gonna go and how inconvenient are we gonna make some of these people at times when everybody's home.
Right.
It's Sunday morning and everyone's parked their cars after working all week.
Yeah, I think we're saying we can't really address that because.
I understand.
It was,
You got plenty of time.
because it was an RFP
Hypothetical. Yeah, it
process
is, I
where
understand.
the trust has to go through a public process to select their development partner for how to to ground lease the land to us. And that land was not available to any other proponents of the project, and I think the parking spaces as a temporary structure is different than if we were to put structures on their land and be part of the 99-year ground lease that we would get. And I don't know if the trust can give us that land to put a structure on without going through a procurement process.
Okay.
Maybe, did you have an opinion on
It's
that?
also in a public road.
Yeah, so
That's my earlier question about abandonment.
my opinion is that we have, they would be crossing a road. We don't know if it's a public road or what it is yet. And, I mean, under 40B, you can't require them to,
I recognize that.
to access additional land. I don't know much about the Affordable Housing Trust and their procurement process, but most likely, if they were to give up more land, they would have to go through some kind of procurement process for that. So it wouldn't be something they could just do, because it will be land that is going to be, permanently changed, because they're gonna have buildings on it, as opposed to satellite parking. I think there is a difference. I don't know for sure, though, but, there's other things that, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
There's other things that could be looked at, but we are very far down the road of this 40B, but, there could be things where you could slide buildings 3, I think it's 2 and 3, slide those together, slide 14 forward just to get a few spots in front of 14, but, people do live in complexes where they don't have a parking spot right out in front of their building. That is,
I don't have it with me here, but just to throw off the discussion, what size units are in building 14? Are they all the one bedrooms?
I won't go to the podium. They're all one bedrooms.
So they're all one bedrooms in 14?
4 on the ground, 4 inside.
so you need 8 spots.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's not gonna be one of the 2-bedroom or,
Right.
it's unlikely
Won't
that
be a
you're gonna
family.
have
Right.
a full family.
Right.
And a one-bedroom, more likely, you're talking, singles or a senior couple.
I mean, it makes it a little bit better.
It does, no. it's only
And
two.
along those lines, because we talked about the fact that the Bassett Lane, you're gonna need a setback change for that. 2 of them, right? One, because we're gonna potentially gonna put parking, so that you can't have it, so we're gonna give you a 0. If we gave you a 0 setback across the board on the north parcel, on the north line of your property line, if we gave you, right now it's 25 feet, I think that's what you're asking for, that's what we're giving you.
Correct.
If we give you a setback exception or waiver there, can you move all those buildings just up enough so at least there's some parking instead of 14, in front of 14?
We can look at that. We can look at that. I don't know.
You have time. I'm just asking you to
Yeah.
try to reimagine so we can create some sort of parking for building 14 that's going to provide a little convenience, which everyone except, building 6, whatever, as well, enjoy in this development. And as I said, I think you've done a fine job with the land area you've been given to meet the requirements of the RFP. I think amount of land is challenging for 60 units. and wish there's an opportunity where we could expand the land that you are given, so we do this thing, at least from my perspective, right. And I am concerned on safety issues, still am, and people having, spillovers unintentional. Just so you know.
We hear you.
Okay?
Yeah.
We hear the concern.
Right, just trying to address it. Any other discussion regarding that point, folks? All right, so I think any of the right, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just want to go back and clarify that grade question we had
Sure.
before about, my concern was more the pre-existing grade, right? Is just to confirm that those calculations were done from high corner to low corner average on the pre-existing grade, not as the site will be graded, because that's what the code says.
We'll confirm.
And it just seems like, again, back to building 14, it seems like there's only like a 4-foot differential, which when we talk about the slope of the road and everything, I'm trying to get around my head that, is that the pre-existing grade, or is that the final grade and where the buildings are gonna go?
Okay.
Is there anybody here that can answer that?
I think we did it from the pre-existing grade.
The existing grade, okay. Yeah, off the top, do you have like the building's footprints overlaid on the topo somewhere?
That's how we would calculate.
We could check that real quick. I'll do that on my own. That's who we have.
So some extracurricular weekend activity.
There you go.
Okay, I think we're into the public comment period of the agenda. Just looking at, we have one person online, and we have 2 people here in the audience, residents. May I ask how many people are here, want to address the board? One gentleman, are you, okay? And so basically, why don't we allow now for because there may be other comments I'm going to allow for a 15-minute public comment period? Okay, is everyone fine with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a 15-minute comment period, public comment period, and the rules of engagement on a comment period are still the same, and just real quick, folks, that we're going to allow up to 3 minutes to express your views, and then you'll get a 30-second notification. However, if there's no one else that wants to speak regarding this, and this gentleman asked me earlier that he's representing one of the local associations, I'm fine with this point. We actually suspend the 3-minute situation and have this gentleman speak, and we'll go from there, okay? Everyone in agreement?
Sure.
So we're going to suspend that rule, and you have the floor. My pleasure. And just a name and address, sir.
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stapleton of 33 Red Pine Drive, and I'm here to request that the ZBA set 2 conditions of approval. That the Penrose project shall use all available, I believe, 13 acres, and shall maximize buffers along Queen Anne and Pleasant Lake. When I say maximize, I mean not smaller than the allowable, but bigger than the allowable, and I'll explain why. This is to enable visual and audio damping. Okay, the recent and unanimously passed local comprehensive plan, the LCP, will legally guide future growth and development. Now, I understand it's not gone through the process of that yet, but it clearly speaks to the will of our people, and it was unanimously approved on, I believe, Monday. And its point is intended to balance the protection of environmental resources, economic growth, quality of life, and community character. 3 of these qualities are not being met by the current project design. That, in my mind, is unarguable. It's clearly that's the fact. 3 of these qualities are not being met. Chapter 40B was written to remove barriers that stand in the way of developing affordable housing, not to waive bylaws without consideration of resultant consequences. It's simply meant to move, if you're stuck on something, and then you have the right to move that aside, give a waiver with no questions asked. When I look at what's happening here, I see a boatload, and I think more than was outlined, but it's so hard to differentiate what they all were, but there are more bylaws, I think, that are embedded within your rules, which is a lot, that are not being identified at this point. But until I give you those explanations, that's just my thought. Expanding to 13 acres allows this project to meet the intent of the LCP and 40B, while the HAHT is allowed to build the 60 units they need to continue towards satisfying the state mandate. So everyone wins in this regard if we do this. Understanding what was just said about the legality of it all, but that's a different question. You lower the consequences of developing an undersized lot and the benefits of using all 13 acres. The first of those three that are not being met is the environment. As discussed earlier, the Penrose project is situated within a resource-critical six-pond region and the Herring River Marine Water Recharge Area, which Mass DEP Title V has designated a natural resource nitrogen-sensitive area. Fact. Using all 13 acres would greatly increase the area needed for absorption and filtering, although the nitrogen will still come in. Now, regarding the N2 comparison of 5 houses on that lot, I'm not convinced, when I looked at the bylaws, and it takes a little while to make this right, but I'm not convinced 5 houses would fit there. And I'm also not convinced that the health department would allow those houses to be built there under the controlling entities of being nitrogen sensitive without demanding high-tech solutions. They may not let a septic system go in there. So when we draw the comparison that they're meeting 5 houses, no one approved 5 houses, and no one said you could use septic systems. So I don't buy off that nitrogen being deposited by this design is accepted. It's not. It's proposed. The second item that is not being met by this design is the quality of life. The current project, and I'm sorry to use this word so often, but it crams 60 units, 'cause I don't know of a better word to use. It crams 60 units on a 5.4 acres. This approach is being enabled by the dismissal of a great number of town bylaws. As a consequence, there is no space for adequate parking, which you've covered in great detail, or quantity. There is limited space for service and safety vehicles, which I still believe to be true. Undersized open space, which really bothers me, for so many residents, and anemic natural barriers, which I'll talk about more. All of this combined with a density that far exceeds what I thought were 3 homes that would normally be allowed in this space without approval of the planning board. Now, they say there's no provision to discuss there's a bylaw that says that you can build, I believe, flexible structure within this 6-pond district if the planning board approves it. Well, you're speaking for the planning board, therefore you're waiving not that they can have a flexible development, but something even beyond that. So I don't even know what bylaw that is that you're waiving to allow 60 units to be here in the first place, other than setbacks, et cetera, density. But that was, to me, was a sticking unit. The planning board may say no, if this is a normal situation, like an apartment, as you alluded to. Okay. It exceeds the 3 homes that would normally be allowed in the space and may result in high levels of stress and anxiety to the residents that will be living there. I think this density is extremely high, and it's not just the parking, it's the lack of barriers that keep the outside out visually and audio and sound, and just the overall, the more people per acre, the higher the stress. When you look at animals in a zoo, that's a terrible analogy, forgive me for that. But when you cram more people into one area, you live in Manhattan, tell me if I'm wrong, the more we are in one space, the higher the anxiety gets. There's a reason for our density requirement. Okay. The town character. The current design presents a high-density development with, I use the word towering structures. I don't know that part. You can exclude that if it's wrong, but that's what I thought I heard. By expanding the buffers to exceed the allowable while maintaining the 30-foot building height restrictions will go a long way to expanding the buffers and excluding the 30 and following the 30-foot building height will go a long way to emulate the quaint seaside town that Harwich clearly wishes to continue, enjoying as the LPC repeatedly dictates. And also in the town hearing, the people that spoke about our town that this is important to them. This is what their wishes are. And it's your job, I'm sorry to say, to listen to that. And there's been a lot of, and I don't know anything about Pine Oaks, but what I saw was a lot of criticism based on what happened, because people claim that citizens were not listened to. And I'm sorry, but I'm seeing that reflected here to a certain degree. The expansion of 13 acres would allow the preservation of the desired rural essence and privacy for neighboring homes. Chapter 40B, Section 20 allows towns to waive bylaws that would normally prohibit the building of affordable housing. It also directs the, it also does the comprehensive plan that they should be consistent with local needs and to protect water, safety, and preserve open spaces. Both 40B and the LCP say that we have to be consistent with local needs and protect water, safety, and preserve open spaces. I don't think we're doing that. It is fair to say that the current design does not satisfy these parameters. The beauty is that a solution that effectively satisfies these fundamental needs is well within our grasp. By simply removing an artificial boundary, Penrose could easily expand, forget the legality for a moment. They're designed to utilize all 13 available acres and enjoy an economical and balanced solution. That is right in front of us. As a result, expanded open space would preserve the quality of life while enhancing absorption and filtration to protect the future water. Pleasant pathways would allow children to safely walk to their bus. Ample tree buffers would allow the residents to enjoy quiet and privacy while maintaining the rural image our town so highly values. So when you drive by, all you see are trees. You don't see this big development. We hide it. Parking size and quantity could be increased and enhanced. We talked about that. The convenience while reducing anxiety and allow service and safety vehicle adequate passage. With the imagination of Penrose has exhibited in previous designs, this project could become the gold standard. It could. It would be ideal if the Housing Affordable Trust could initiate a redirection to enable the use of all 13 acres. Forgive me for what I'm about to say. This would illustrate their desire to reflect the wishes of town residents, which is in direct contrast to what I heard at the recent town meetings. Some harsh things were said towards your organization, and I'm sensitive to the work you're trying to do. I am.
You need to direct your comments to the chair, not.
Oh, I'm sorry, fair enough. Will do. I'm trying to be kind. My calculation predicts that 60 units would bring us up to 9.8% affordable, not 8.2, housing, and we could easily claim safe harbor, as was said in that same town meeting, allowing ample time to find land for the 7 remaining units needed to achieve 10%. The 2 requested conditions go a long way to support affordable housing while protecting environment quality and maintaining the town character. Our decision will impact hundreds of people for 100 years. A lot of people are going to be affected by what is decided on this design going forward. The more I look into the current design, the more strongly I feel that conditioning the use of all 13 acres is the only path forward, and I'm confident that the Cape Cod Commission, who I'm surprised has not weighed in more on this, and those in the State House would agree. Thank you for your consideration. What I mean by that last statement is that if we could do this, I don't think the state would mind if we put 60 units on 13 acres. I don't think they would care, as long as they get their 60 units, that's what they want. And I think that people in Harwich could appreciate that if we enforce this expansion, which is feasible, and if the housing, HHT had proposed a design that was unfeasible, whose fault is that? Is it the town residents' fault that they didn't do their homework? No, it is not. So if you can just say, hey, we're too far down the road, we've invested too much money, I understand business, but that doesn't discount the shortage that we are pushing upon our people. And if I didn't feel so passionate about this, I wouldn't be putting all the time into trying to figure out what the complexity of this issue. It is complex, but it can be fixed. And I know Penrose can do it. You guys have the ability to you do. You can be a beautiful, beautiful thing that the people will be proud to live in. I don't think that people in this room would like to live in this development. I know I wouldn't. But yet we're invoking it upon hundreds of people for 100 years. That's what we're doing here. And I strongly advise that we find a way to make it right instead of accepting what has been handed to us. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for talking, Tom. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard and online? We have one person, actually two, but one's a night. Okay, I don't believe anyone's requesting to be heard. Okay. All right, folks. First of all, review on our future hearing dates. And the next date, I believe, which has been, I think, approved by, I know all the board members, I believe, is gonna be June 11th, another Thursday night. Okay. When I was a kid, there used to be the Friday night fights, but we're doing the Thursday night 40Bs.
Okay.
All right, so it'll be June 11th. And prior to that, myself and Rachel,
Night meeting.
Night meeting, 6 PM.
Night meeting.
yeah, there's night meeting at 6 PM. And prior to all that, we will be in touch with everybody to discuss a later date in June which I would expect would be a wrap-up scenario. Okay.
What's the delay in trying to set that date
There's only,
ASAP?
there's only two other dates available late in June, and that is the 18th and the 25th.
Well, I can probably do the 18th.
The 18th would be better for me.
I can do the 18th.
Chris, Al?
18th is fine.
Al?
All right, June 18th, well, it's open.
Okay, so why don't we, thanks for suggesting that.
That's a
6
week
PM
after
on
the
the
previous one. Is that enough time?
Is a week after the 11th?
Sure, how much you're gonna accomplish.
You're not gonna accomplish much in a week.
Is the 25th a possibility for everybody?
I have a conflict. I thought
I may have a conflict on the 25th. What about daytime later?
That's what I was gonna,
Those are
could
the,
do-
and Rachel, those are the only dates because of this room availability?
the room availability, and if the board wants to continue to meet in the evening. If
What-
you wanted to meet during the day.
You do a daytime scenario, and, at the end of June, how are we looking then?
well, the 24th, well,
Do you want
24th.
the last week of June?
I don't know,
I wouldn't go into you mean the week of the 29th?
The week of the 22nd?
Yeah.
We have our regular meeting on the 24th. I mean, I could do during the day on the 25th. I don't know.
Brian, can you do during the day on the 25th?
As long as the meeting ends by 4
I don't,
o'clock.
I can.
yeah, what I'm struggling with is a family scenario that I, right now, may have, my son's having two twins being born on the 23rd.
Oh, you're good.
So, I just want you to know.
Two twins or one twin?
Changing diapers? Come on.
How about the
Oh, no, but, the guys,
22nd.
I mean,
How's the 22nd?
we'll
looking for
schedule
you,
a
Brad?
meeting, but your chair may not be there.
How about the 22nd?
How about the 22nd?
Actually, right now, the due date, the situation is, I don't want to get into this,
Yeah, it's-
all right? But I'm just trying to say is my availability, I'm not quite sure. So I may be, regardless, because I'm not letting those moments pass me by, using my Mullen rule to excuse myself, okay? So we can set up the time. Just want everyone to know that, more than likely, there's a good chance that your host is going to be Ken.
All right.
Okay.
Good news, bad news.
As an alternate, I know we chose the 11th. Could we do a day meeting on the 4th?
I'm not here.
Well, what, of what, of,
June.
June.
we can do a day meeting, we can actually, our last closeout meeting has to be by July 7th,
Right.
Without an extension.
without an extension. Okay? So what kind of extension would you folks consider to have your favorite chair, be at the meeting?
Given that there's no alternates on the board.
given there's no alternates on the board. I mean, I'm just trying to,
Right.
Well, one of the problems is if we don't do it the week of the 22nd, it really pushes us out 2 weeks, because the following weekend of the 4th of July.
Yeah.
right,
It would have to be sometime the week of the 6th.
yeah, I just, something they can think about. We won't, may not be able to finalize tonight, but right at the moment, we're talking a daytime meeting on the 25th, is that what I heard? That everyone's available except for me, perhaps?
As long as your daughter-in-law gets it,
No, but I just want to say the fact that, you know,
operates.
I've made every personal effort to never miss and be involved with every board meeting, whether it's standard months or 40Bs, but I am not going to, on this particular personal scenario, not going to miss the opportunity.
I think given that that's potentially the last one,
Without an extension.
without an extension.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't think that you should
Yeah.
schedule something on the 25th.
Okay.
I think you should request an extension and get a meeting.
July 9th? What about
Ninth.
July 9th?
July 9th.
I won't be here.
July 9th. I can be here.
I'm not either.
Anytime that week.
My 50th.
Okay, so can we look at July, the beginning of July, everyone?
I mean,
Because that will be the meeting that we will go over the decision. You will have a draft prior to that. We'll go over it, and then I will leave the meeting, make all the changes that you have instructed me to make, and we finalize it.
July 2nd is open, I don't know.
No.
that's,
Not that week.
wait a minute.
That week, you know.
Just real quick, I mean, currently, the 100 days, what it is, ends July 7th. So, the issue here is, are we going to need another meeting for general discussion before we sit down to do our decision?
No, we have a meeting July 11th,
11th.
June 11th.
June 11th,
So June 11th, we're gonna wrap everything up. And then I'm gonna draft a decision and get it over to you guys.
but we have to close public meetings by July 7th.
Unless we get an extension.
Correct.
Right, so wait, a minute, what I'm trying to say here is, if June 11th is going to be a wrap-up scenario, you know, then we have, 45 days?
But they can't, but they can't participate in the decision. So, once you
I
close
hear
the
you saying,
hearing, you
okay.
close the hearing on June 11th and they're out. Everybody's out except for us.
Okay, so,
How about June 29th or June 30th?
So,
That's kind of a bad week, because that's really the July 4th week,
It certainly is.
just saying.
it is.
Maybe the
Mondays you
29th.
can't do the evening because the select board meets.
In this room.
Yes.
I would suggest, based on public participation, we could probably do it in a smaller room.
We have a closet large enough to hold it?
Because the longer we wait to set that final date, the harder it's gonna be, because
Right.
people's calendar, we need to reserve,
Yeah.
I think, a date.
All right, so right now, let's go, so daytime, all right, the week of the 22nd, where are we for a daytime meeting?
You're out.
Let's just say, where are we for a daytime meeting? Week of the 22nd,
That's of June, right?
of June.
Any
we
day
at?
for me.
Huh?
Any day for me.
Any day as long as they end by 4 o'clock.
All right, what about the 23rd, or the 22nd of June?
22nd, would be best for you.
Time,
It can be daytime,
okay.
you know,
You need to be done by 4 o'clock?
Not
I mean,
on-
we can be-
not if it's the 20th.
1 to 4.
we can meet at 9 o'clock on the 22nd.
I won't be there.
9:30.
I'm not.
22nd's not good? I won't be there.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
not
wait.
We're
available
on the 22nd.
Brian,
No, 22nd in the
22nd,
morning.
I'm
I
not available. I've
Okay, all
tried.
right. So, so you're not here,
Do the afternoon.
are you here the 23rd?
Amy?
Yes,
You were on the 23rd?
let's make it in the afternoon, because my trial goes long.
The planning board meets in the evening, so like what time in the afternoon, like 1 o'clock?
1
1 to
o'clock?
4?
Okay.
The 23rd.
1 to 4?
June 23rd, 1 to 4. Is that,
That only gives 8 business days between the previous meeting and
no, the previous meeting's the 11th.
then, yeah.
Okay,
business days.
all right, so I'm sorry, you're right. So we're looking at 12 days. Do you feel there's
Technically
any,
only 6 business days because of June 19th, Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, yeah.
Okay, what's the date now? Because I've got 15,000 dates in here now.
I'm not sure we have one yet.
Is the 24th or 25th on or off? I mean, if you needed 2 more days, what, how are we on that?
Wrap up, it's how long they have to draft the report.
And we do it two, you know,
I'm available all that week during the day.
I'm available any day. I'm available from Tuesday afternoon on,
okay.
right now.
And then are you available in the mornings on the 24th, 25th, or 26th?
Sure.
All right.
I am not on the 24th.
All right, on the 25th, are we available in the mornings, you guys?
Yes.
On the what day?
Yes.
On the 25th,
Yes, sir.
all right? So how about, you know,
9:30 to noon?
we meet at 9:30 and on the 25th.
Okay.
Who's supplying the coffee?
I don't know what the violation is to open meeting laws, but, you know, certainly there's a, you know, certainly I think there's a $50, is that per person? How does that work? All right, so June 25th at 9:30. And I appreciate everyone's considerations for my personal life, but that would probably be okay. Right, so, we established the meeting.
But we are meeting on the 11th at 6.
11 on 6, and then after that, June 25th, more than likely at 9:30.
And that'll be to review you'll have a document for us.
Yes, just like we did last time.
Yep.
Okay.
So it should be a final meeting, assuming all
And- yeah.
goes well.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other final comments and discussion by anybody? Board members? Okay,
We're hoping they find parking somewhere for that building.
all right.
Hoping-
So,
really
We're
hoping there's-
looking, we're gonna look at it, we're gonna look
Couple
hard,
left, couple up.
and I guess, will
under
you-
every rock.
and will you give me the courtesy of having, you know, you folks take a look at what will you do for assigned parking? How would you do it? And that can serve as being a format for your manager to address when they have to make a decision. So you're giving them a tool up front. And if there's any other way of doing some sort of unloading for 14, that'd be great too. Okay.
Have you continued the hearing?
Continue to hear.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm going to, you know, I had that document readily available earlier. Let me find it again. Okay. All right, I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Wait a minute, let me read,
You have to say where, when, and
let me
when.
finish my job here, guys. I move to continue case number 2026-01, Penrose LLC, agent and applicant, Harwich Affordable Trust owner, to a scheduled public hearing on June 11th, 2026, at the Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street, starting not before 6 PM in the Griffin Room. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ken.
All in favor,
All
say
those in
aye.
favor? Aye. Okay, we are adjourned, folks. Thank you.
Evening.